Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg is here across from me.
Hi.
How are you doing today, Carlene?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's Friday Eve.
It is Friday Eve.
Friday Eve. We're on the eve.
It's about time.
On the
You know what I
cusp
mean?
of the
We're
weekend.
so close.
So close. So close. It's getting warmer outside. Carlene's happy. We also have meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees here in studio. Brittany, how are you doing?
Hello, Nick. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I am doing well. It's Friday Eve. It's Friday Eve. I can't complain. So let's get to it. You are keeping an eye on the forecast. And one of the things that you mentioned, I remember recently, we haven't seen any rain. It's been dry.
Yes,
Yeah.
it certainly has been.
So any rain in the near future? Like, how are we looking on the drought monitor?
So rain in the near future, very little. There's
Okay.
a small chance pretty much today through Saturday, but even then it's not much. And I know that when we talk about rain overall, people might be thinking back to the beginning of August, how wet it was. Just because it was wet a month ago doesn't mean we've seen a lot of rain now.
Yeah.
So anytime that we have a drought situation start to develop or of course start to get better, you want multiple days, right, with little to moderate rainfall. You don't want a significant amount one day and then no more rain for 2 months, which is kind of how we started off August so wet, but then we really haven't seen some rain for quite some time. And so that has resulted in the drought monitor becoming much more significant as we've gone through the month of August. So I put this back 30 days. So this was back on August 19th. We were dry. We were quiet. We actually had no drought in all of North and South Carolina. But you can kind of slowly see as we progress the graphic how the drought started to creep in beginning of September. And then with the new monitor that just came out today, we actually are in a level 1, let's say, drought from pretty much everywhere south of the I-85 corridor. So Mecklenburg County, Union, Anson, Chester, York, Lancaster, Chesterfield, and then over toward the coast. So there's these tiny little pockets as well of dry conditions in the southern side of South Carolina toward Florence. So pretty much if you were going toward the beaches, toward Myrtle Beach, there's a big little swath there. One swath as well just south of Raleigh, and then of course eastern side of North Carolina too. Where there's not as much drought conditions is northern side of our area and then east, and that's kind of a lot of those areas that saw a lot of significant drought with Chantal because there was so much rain. Of course it will take them a little bit longer to, I guess, catch up when it comes to how dry they are compared to normal. Now I will remind folks that drought conditions ebb and flow. Typically this is our rainy season, so you're less likely to see a drought this time of year and more likely to see a drought when you get into the fall and winter months. I know technically it's fall now, but our rainy season is pretty much May through October across most of the South. So as you get into November, December, January, February, we typically don't see a lot of rain. So what you don't want is drought conditions, is what the point of this thing that I'm saying is going into November, December. So ideally we would get out of that drought before those driest months would come about. Now rain chances, again, as I mentioned, are really, really low over the next few days. So I don't think we're getting relief anytime soon, but of course we do see cold fronts this time of year that can bring higher chances and rain, higher chances for rain, that is. What we don't want, of course, is any kind of tropical system, but of course that would generally bring us more rain. If you remember last year, we had Debbie that brought a lot of rain to our area, and that was the early half of hurricane season. And as we all know, we've talked about it 1,000 times. Next week marks the 1-year anniversary of Helene, so I don't think I need to talk about that rainfall, but we of course will be talking a lot more about that storm over the next few weeks. Today, definitely more humid, definitely more muggy outside. Temperatures right now right around 80 degrees. Again, very little rainfall, not just here, but also across most of the Carolinas. I know we were expecting to see rain earlier this week. I believe it was. I was off for a few days at a friend's wedding, so I do pay attention to the weather, but haven't been in the studio in a few days. But I know there was that coastal low pressure system that we were expecting a little bit more rain, and it did. Not a full bust in the forecast, but it did. There was a slight little bust there, and so we didn't see as much rain as we normally do. Okay, my graphics are lagging. All right, there we're back. Okay, so tonight I do want to mention, of course, big game here in Charlotte. The 49ers are taking on Rice University. A kickoff for that game is at 7:30. Again, the good news here is that we're not expecting any rain for that game, which I know caused some big problems. What was it now, 2 weekends ago, Carlene/Nick? Yeah, when UNC was here. And of course they were delayed because of lightning. Again, it wasn't severe weather, but lightning within about 8 to 10 miles from most stadiums, whether it's NCAA or NFL, will normally delay the game. Tonight, again, we're pretty dry, a little bit of rain action in the mountains. These are what I would consider 20% chances or less of rain. This is one of those forecast days where I don't want to make it 0, because if you're the one person who sees a drop of rain, you're going to be upset with me if I said there was 0%, but it's really less than 20. So if I really had to assign a number to it, say 5 to 10. That's in the Piedmont up in the mountains. It's a little bit higher. And then we will see a better chance of a few spotty storms Saturday afternoon. Recent trends have been a little bit drier, but I'm keeping that 30% chance in just because if there's a chance of rain, even if it's low on a weekend day, we want to make sure we're being prepared for that. That's on Saturday, but we are dry on Sunday. So again, there's not really a lot of big changes in the forecast over the next few days. There's days that are hotter than others, like what we're seeing today, upper 80s and upper 80s again tomorrow, but it's not like we're seeing significant ebbs and flows where one day's 90 and one day's 79 degrees. So nothing like that, at least in the near term. I would keep in mind 20 to 30% chance from now through Saturday. Now, update of course on what's going on in the tropics. This is a satellite view of Tropical Storm Gabrielle. I'm not going to get into semantics about whether or not this actually looks like a tropical storm, but it has been dubbed so by the National Hurricane Center, so we're going to keep tracking it. As talked about multiple times this week, last week, a storm that forms this far east is very typically going out to sea just based on where the Bermuda High is positioned this time of year. So Gabrielle is no issue for us here in the Carolinas and no issue for anybody in the United States at all. So again, it's a non-issue for us. Next storm name up on the list is our H name, which is Umberto. It is a repeat of 6 years ago, which would have been 2019. And that's going to be the next storm name on the list. And that will come if this new tropical wave that we're tracking off the coast of Africa comes off the coast and develops into a storm. I will repeat that this doesn't always happen, but eastern side of the Atlantic, if something forms east or east central part of the Atlantic basin, again, it oftentimes does go out to sea. Normally this time of year, trouble spots, let's say, that we're watching to impact us potentially in the United States is normally closer to the Gulf or in the Caribbean. So as we get later and later into September and October, we watch, of course, the middle part of the Atlantic, but maybe not as much. And yeah, that's really all I have. There's not a lot happening, of course, in the weather world. Here's the official 7-day forecast. We have a new sponsorship on there, Jerry Hunt Super Center, so thanks for that. 49ers again this afternoon. I wouldn't expect any rain to cause any issues. Even if we do see a drop, I don't think we'll see a lot of storms. 20% a day, 20% tomorrow, 30% on Saturday, and then, of course, a big weekend here in the sports world. I know Carlene especially knows about the Knights because, of course, our sweet baby angel Greg. But there's a doubleheader on Saturday, which is fun. Last home games, so that's exciting. Again, it will be warm, but won't be too bad weather-wise. Small chance of rain. The Panthers.
Let's go!
There's
We're at
start
home.
event. Yeah.
All right. At home, baby. Home cooking against your Falcons.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm
Brittany's
going to go no
Falcons.
comment on that because I don't want to get anybody upset with me. The people in this room and across. Yes, I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a Falcons fan, sorry to say. Not just because of the Panthers fans here in the Carolinas, but I'm also sorry to say just
okay.
in general because, I don't think I need to talk
The
about
bandwagon is
those
open.
2 Super Bowl losses. But then, of course, on Monday, even though meteorological fall has already begun, astronomical fall begins at 2:19. I put the text in, but now it's very, very small on my computer. Yeah, 2:19 on Monday.
There
And
it
so
is.
the people who love to argue with me online that fall hasn't officially begun, we can at least finally agree on that. So
Why would they want to argue with you?
well, I think people do it honestly. It's more of a joke, Nick. Like trying to be funny, like hee hee.
But
But you also know I love to argue. So.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Brittany, we love you despite your fandom of the Falcons.
Oh, I was like, my fandom. I don't think there is one.
The Falcons.
Brittany, I love you unconditionally.
Thank you, Carlene. I appreciate it.
Some.
Oh my God.
What do you want to say, Dick? You just got. You
Nothing.
checkmate.
I'm rooting for the University of South Carolina Gamecocks football season,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
although they lost.
We need it. We
Listen,
need
you
it.
guys
we
know.
we need believers.
They lost against Vandy.
I know.
I'm sorry.
It was.
You know that
it
I
was
will
tough.
always root for the home team unless they're playing my team. So
Sure.
I want the Panthers to be good.
Yeah.
Except for when they're playing the Falcons.
Yeah.
It's twice a year, Brittany. Twice a year starting Sunday.
But also normally, Nick, it's a 1-1. Normally we win one, you win one. So
We'll see if we can get one at home. We just need one at this point. You guys got 2.
yeah, I mean we did play pretty well.
Or I'm sorry, you guys got
It's
1.
where
You guys
we-
are
no, I was
1-1.
gonna say we have one.
1-1.
We did play relatively well, but you know who's not 1-1 is the 48ers, but that's a different concern for a different day.
Ooh, it's a lot to unpack there. Brittany.
Yeah, let's stop talking. Get on with the news. Love
Brittany,
you. See you at 4 o'clock.
Brittany will be back here. Coming back at 2 o'clock
Oh,
hour?
yeah, I guess I did say that. Okay, so I see you at 2 and then I'll see you at
2:30.
2:30.
2:30.
Yeah.
Brittany will be back here at 2:30.
If that changes, just let me know.
Yeah, we got you. See, this is what we do. We
This is what we
actively
do.
communicate on Live Impact
Yes.
News.
Actively scheduling.
Actively
as the show goes
2:30
along.
works for Brittany. So Brittany, we're going to have her on 2:30.
It's so that people know if they don't want to see me again, they can mute it.
Oh, stop. No,
stop
pencil
it, stop
Brittany
it.
in for
Stop
2:30.
it.
Set an
Stop it.
alarm.
Right.
Keep an eye on the clock. Honestly, just don't turn us off.
At all.
At
No,
all.
No, no.
Stay with us.
Yeah.
Stay with us here on Live
Why
Impact
would you leave
News.
us?
I didn't say turn off. I said mute. Because
Oh, no.
No,
We
no,
want
no.
it loud and proud.
I want to see it.
Turn up the
Yes, don't.
volume.
You know who does watch Live Impact News all day? Roger,
Roger.
my dog.
Shout out to Roger.
Shout out to Roger.
Shout out to Roger.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's take a quick break here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg is here. We were going to go to something else in the last minute. It changed on us, but we're still going to go to Washington D.C. We're happening right now. There is a press conference. I have a little bit of information. So we heard from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. earlier. Also, CMS Administrator Dr. Oz. And basically officials at a federal level discussing a breakthrough with what they're calling a breakthrough with health insurers regarding prior authorization policy. Let's take a listen in to what's being said at this moment.
My Chief of Staff, Margaret Bush, Deputy Chief of Staff, Holly Walla, and the entire HRSA team. They have put tireless efforts into this, and they have been the real leaders in this, and they are the real heroes that I really want to acknowledge and thank. At the Health Resources and Services Administration, we know that when families make that difficult decision to say yes to a donation, they are entrusting us and the national organ system with their loved one's legacy. When safety lapses occur, trust is broken. And if families lose trust, fewer will choose donation. That is simply unacceptable, and we are here to fix it. Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, the Organ Procurement Transplantation Network modernization efforts are strengthening patient safety and restoring trust. Over the last 8 months, HRSA has led historic modernization of the Organ Procurement and Transplantation Network, transforming governance, transparency, technology, and accountability across the transplant system. First, governance and accountability. For the first time in 40 years, HRSA separated the OPTN board from its contractor and seated an independent 34-member board through a national special election with 83% voter participation, showing strong community engagement. Second, transparency and fairness. HRSA launched a public dashboard to improve transparency and increase oversight when organ allocation deviates from OPTN policy. This is called allocation out of sequence, which means patients were skipped over for their chance for a life-saving transplant. Third, policy reforms focused on safety. To strengthen both patient safety and fairness, HRSA directed the OPTN to review and change multiple key policy concerns, including the unfair allocation out of sequence procurement safety through clear policy directives. Fourth, modernizing the finances. We moved away from the model where one single contractor monopolized the system for 40 years and into a new multi-vendor environment which is best-in-class contractors. And Congress, and thank you to the members of Congress that did this. Thank you for these changes that you made. This change is going to help HRSA bring greater transparency and oversight in how patient registration fees support the OPTN operations. Fifth, a new complaint reporting process and better data to improve patient safety. HRSA opened a direct reporting channel for misconduct and safety concerns, giving us full visibility into patient safety complaints across the system. Through this new reporting system, complaints can be reported anonymously and will allow investigations, appropriate actions to be taken. But our work does not stop there. Today, Secretary Kennedy is directing a new initiative to improve patient safety and further restore integrity to the nationwide transplant system. This new directive authorizes the OPTN Board of Directors to designate a full-time patient safety officer. This officer will be responsible for coordinating responses across clinical operational teams, ensure compliance with federal priorities, and take corrective action whenever patients are at risk. This builds on our previous directives to the OPTN requiring national reporting and safety-related concerns and stronger safeguards in organ procurement. Families and clinicians deserve a system that is trustworthy and accountable. They all deserve this. When disturbing practices came to light, Secretary Kennedy and HRSA acted, directing corrective actions, enhanced monitoring, and national reporting to restore integrity and accountability. Patients and families must know the system is fair and worthy of their trust. This is the standard we are setting today. This is the promise that Secretary Kennedy and President Trump are delivering today. And with that, I would like to turn it over to another leader in this entire area, is the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Health Services, Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill.
What is sacred? The personal can be sacred, the eternal can be sacred, compassion can be sacred, sacrifice can be sacred. And saving the life of another by giving of yourself unites these dimensions of the sacred into one line that only points to the future. But fear can stand in the way. Living donors, even in their generosity, fear that saving another life could damage their own. And families, gathered around a hospital bed, fear that discordant incentives by procurement organizations could disrupt life-saving care for their loved one. Donating an organ is an act of great compassion, but every episode of abuse in the procurement system can frighten potential donors away. That's why today is so important. Over the past 4 years, all of us watched the public health establishment burn its public trust. All of us watched the abuses of the pandemic in dismay. But Secretary Kennedy had the solution: earn back public trust, brick by brick and stone by stone, until we rebuild the House through transparency and rigorous science. What you just heard from Secretary Kennedy and Mehmet and Marty and Tom is another story in rebuilding this House. Nearly 100,000 Americans are currently waiting for a kidney, but only 45,000 receive transplants every year. I've watched friends die waiting on the list, and I will never get over it. We have a system for handling kidney failure from transplantation to dialysis, but it obviously has limits. One limit is a compromised immune system. Cadaver kidneys typically last 10 to 15 years and require immunosuppressive drugs that present significant health challenges. By closing one wound, we open another. Dialysis, too, takes a significant toll on the body and the mind. The process can be debilitating and exhausting. Patients are tethered to a machine, and their life revolves around the machine. That is one way to live, but we can build a better one. A single kidney transplant saves Medicare more than $500,000 in dialysis. I want to talk today about 4 concrete ways the Trump administration is safely increasing the availability of kidneys for Americans in need. First, I'm pleased to announce significant investment to make living donations easier and more affordable by improving the Living Donor Program. Today, we're committing $25 million in new funding to that task. HRSA's Living Organ Donation Reimbursement Program will reduce the financial burden on living organ donors by reimbursing eligible expenses that are non-medical, such as lost wages, travel and lodging, meals, and dependent care. I started pushing this project in 2007, the last time I was at HHS, and now that I'm back, it's a true honor to announce it. Second, we're developing methods to support living kidney donation through the KidneyX Innovation Accelerator. Third, we recently broke new ground by greenlighting the first clinical trials for xenotransplantation at FDA. Soon, doctors will save patients with kidney failure by giving them genetically modified pig organs. Someday, we'll replace failing organs with biomechanical improvements. Fourth, through our investment arm, ARPA-H, we're developing bioprinting technology and regenerative medicine to 3D print personalized organs on demand that will not require immunosuppressive drugs. These 4 efforts complement our broader initiatives to enhance patient safety through the organ donation and transplantation system and bring us into a future in which waiting for a transplant will become a bizarre relic of the past. In the meantime, my colleagues and I are committed to reforming the transplant system to save and improve the lives of Americans. Previous administrations have had concerns about the OPO, but Secretary Kennedy is the first to decertify mid-cycle. Yesterday was Patient Safety Day. Today we live in the future. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take some questions from the press. We should have a microphone. If you could say your first name, last name, outlet, and also keep your questions to why we're here today.
I'm wondering what happens in Miami now with this decertification and people waiting for transplants there. Thank you.
So there's a process by which the Miami South Florida organization can appeal the decertification. That process will take several months. They will appeal it to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And we believe that over the next few months, they'll get a very fair hearing. If they end up failing, then there's a process to open it up to other OPO groups or new ones to enter into that region. There will be coverage. There will be seamless coverage for patients in the area. And I want to applaud the OPOs that are doing a great job, because most are. They're spectacularly effective at that tense moment of dealing with the doctor, the nurses, the family, the estranged sibling, all the things that happen at the moment of death that is sacred, as Jim O'Neill spoke to. And we want those OPOs to be celebrated. The reason we're taking aggressive action against failing OPOs is to make sure that the strong ones continue to thrive.
Thank you. Mary Margaret with Daily Wire. I was hoping you could expand a little more on some of these steps you've taken to make sure that we're not harvesting organs from living patients like so many people are concerned about.
Well, our team has done an extensive investigation in all this, and the OPTN, when they made this recommendation, this was not an easy recommendation for them to make. But now we are seeing and have done investigations in other areas. We have put corrective action in place. The OPTN board is following those corrective action plans, and they're making sure that those OPOs that are operating in those areas are going to be compliant in those areas.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm Lauren Brenslow with Politico. Can you talk a little bit more about 3D printing personalized organs on demand and how that will impact patients?
Yeah, so ARPA-H is one of our investment arms. It was created by Congress a few years ago to make non-dilutive investments in innovative technologies that will improve health. And we're using that to deploy money to figure out ways to make artificial organs that will be a better solution than donations.
Hi, Peter Wariski, Washington Post. There have been a number of allegations against some of the OPOs for double billing and other fraudulent ways of defrauding Medicare. Is there any effort to bring DOJ or any law enforcement into some of these cases?
We're aware of the allegations. Just to get everyone on the same page, OPOs are paid for the costs. They're nonprofits. They're paid for the costs incurred when they procure organs. We do have OPOs held accountable to the standards of the other OPOs. So we are investigating very seriously anything that could hurt the trust in the organ procurement system. I don't believe billing is our biggest concern, and just from what we've been seeing, but we are definitely investigating it.
Thank you, everyone.
If I could ask Dr. Lynch and Suma come up, and members of Congress, Jason, John, coming up, just get a foot. The hard work of Dr. Lynch and Suma should be acknowledged. Jim mentioned them, but they have really been leaders in the field with Tom Engels. Thank you.
No, we can't.
Get in front. Let's get in front of this. John, come over here and bounce it out. Make sure you get that big camera in the back. Does Dr. Lynch look happy over there? Tough man to give one. Get a tough man to do.
All right, so that press conference looks like it's just wrapped up. U.S. health leaders, that's Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Health Secretary, leaving the stage. Also, Dr. Oz spoke at this press conference. So we want to step away for 2 minutes. I promise just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News. We'll be back again in 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's go to something live happening right now in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis city leaders are having a press conference as they talk about a resolution. And this resolution is urging Governor Bill Lee to reverse course on allowing the occupation of Memphis by National Guard troops, a big topic that broke on Friday. But let's listen in to what city leaders there in Memphis, Tennessee are saying at this moment.
State House with the governor, we have a line of communication with the president. They're not listening to the people of Memphis. If you look at that press conference, there was no one from the city of Memphis at their press conference. Exactly. There's no one in the city of Memphis deciding what happens to us. If they decide to come, is that your question? Yes. What are we doing if they decide to come? These group of individuals and many others, we're going to continue to organize. I've had a conversation with the clerk trying to find ways we can get people license reinstated, trying to find ways we can address the insurance issue, trying to find ways that we can address the low-hanging fruit, because we know inevitably there's going to be one of us with a minor issue that is going to cause serious problems for them long term. We have to be prepared as a people for what is and will come. We are ready.
Yes. All right, guys.
Thank you all. Ready to go. Ready to go. Ready to go. Ready to go.
Sarah. Oh my God. Ready to get out
All right, so that was a press conference there. We caught the tail end of that. Again, Memphis city leaders are urging Governor Bill Lee to reverse course on allowing the occupation of Memphis by National Guard troops. So there is that. All right, so we want to go to Washington, D.C., back to Washington, D.C. So happening right now, Senate Democrats are holding a press conference touching on a variety of issues. It looks like they're answering questions right now. Let's take a listen to what's being said.
Right into the first question. This is not just a story about a runaway president who's looking to abuse and consolidate power, right? Because that actually was envisioned in the Constitution. And that's why the Constitution was built the way that it was, to distribute that power. Because there are a lot of people who do have power. The majority of this Congress has the power to stop it right now. Big businesses, universities, law firms, media conglomerates, they face a choice. They can stop it and stand in the breach right now. But if they don't right now, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year later, everybody starts losing that power over time. So now is the moment to use it.
Take one more thing.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm going to try and sneak in too and do the White House reporter trick. So I'm happy not to be one. College is the best, what I'm saying. Two questions as a reporter. Two questions. One, in terms of what you all can do, you said that some said the FCC Commissioner should resign, but should he be impeached? That is potential motion on the floor that could be accepted for House members especially. Number two, what is Democrats' responsibility for the rhetoric right now? We heard your fellow member, I'm sorry that he left, talk about fascism, saying we're having fascism now. We know the suspected shooter in Utah had the word fascist on supposedly one of the rounds of artillery. Republicans say that Democrats are part of the problem right now because of using words like Nazis and fascists. Those are the two questions.
Well, listen, we have to tell the truth. And the truth is hard to hear right now. The truth is that Donald Trump is trying to destroy our democracy. He is trying to silence free speech. He is acting in a way that is scarily similar to many would-be despots all across this world, all across history, who have tried to transition a country from democracy to autocracy. And so we have no obligation to sugarcoat the gravity of this moment. The only way we save this nation is if the people of this country rise up in peaceful protest. if they mobilize all across America. These companies won't really think twice about their money grab until they know that the American people are firmly on the side of protecting free speech. And so the only way that you build that kind of mobilization is to tell the truth. So this is another tried and true tactic of despots, is that they label any criticism of them as hate speech or terrorism or incitement to violence. This is how democracies disappear, is that you allow the regime to create terminology that essentially invalidates the ability to speak truth to power, and we're just not going to let them silence us. I don't know if you want to take the. Yeah, great. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
All right, so right there was a press conference that just wrapped up. Senate Democrats answering questions, addressing the Trump administration. We want to go to another press conference happening not too far away there in our nation's capital. That is Senator Alex Padilla from California, Democrat. Other Democrat leaders behind him. He's holding a press conference. Let's listen in to what's being said right now.
For 5 more seats, that they're entitled to 5 more seats, and don't stop there. Listen to what he says, because he means it. What we know is that Republicans are afraid to run on their record. They're jacking up health care premiums for working families. Their failed tariff wars is increasing costs on everything from groceries to housing and more. And Republicans are scrambling to cover up the president's involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. It's a formula to lose power in the midterm elections, and instead of changing their ways, they've decided to change the rules. So what started in Texas has spread, predictably, to Missouri and Indiana, Florida, and beyond. It's become a race to the bottom to impress Donald Trump, who's personally issuing these marching orders from the White House. From the White House to legislators in state houses across the country to rig the maps. And yes, in response, California has had no choice but to gear up for this fight. But as a proud senator from the state of California, I can tell you, I know there is a better way forward. We believe in a better way forward. And so today we're offering Republicans this off-ramp. Let's come together behind the Redistricting Reform Act of 2025, a common sense solution to the partisan power grabs that we're witnessing. The measure would ban mid-decade redistricting immediately, because no one should be able to rewrite the rules in the middle of the cycle. And it would return to nonpartisan, independent commissions drawing the lines. Because as we've said before, we'll say again, it should be voters choosing the representatives, not the other way around. Now, we're more than happy to meet Republicans on a level playing field every election, and competing on ideas and policies and proposed solutions, not competing on who can rig the rules more than the other. Competing on ideas is what's best for.
All right, so that is a live look from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., as some Democrat leaders are speaking on redistricting laws. That is Senator Alex Padilla from California. So we want to step away from that, and we want to come back here at home. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here in 2 minutes on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. Carlene is here. Jeb is here. So let's go to something live. Do we still want to go back to D.C.? Okay, let's go to D.C. What's happening right now? A House Oversight Committee is talking about crime in D.C. All right. So as you remember, the National Guard deployed at Washington, D.C. President Trump calling this a crackdown on crime there. But let's take a listen into what this House Oversight Committee is talking about right now.
Kentucky complained about the National Guard coming in. No one said it was a takeover and they were going to have to train and educate the youth on how to respond to the National Guard. That was just what was done to restore order. So we support what the president's doing. We want to work with the council and the mayor's office and the AG to try to come up with solutions to the problem. But doing nothing isn't working. And that's kind of what my colleagues over here want to do, creating more government programs, hiring more government bureaucrats. That's not worked. That's been the business model in the past, and it's not worked. It's not working in Washington, D.C., and it's not working in a lot of other cities. So hopefully we can continue to have dialogue and come up with solutions to solve the crime crisis, especially the juvenile crime crisis in Washington. Now, the chair recognizes Mr. Khanna from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, this administration has initiated the largest assault on the First Amendment and free speech in modern history. They're making comedy illegal. Brendan Carr pressured ABC to cancel Jimmy Kimmel, and Disney canceled Jimmy Kimmel. This canceling from an administration that lectured us about cancel culture. That's why today I'm introducing a motion to subpoena Brendan Carr, to bring him in front of this committee, to stop the intimidation of private businesses and to stand up for the First Amendment. Now, it's not just Brendan Carr. Attorney General Pram Bondi is prosecuting hate speech, even though hate speech is constitutionally protected. And even though we've had so many lectures from my friends on the other side of the aisle not to prosecute hate speech. And then what about our vice president, the champion of free speech, as he told us during the campaign? The vice president is telling Americans to snitch on fellow Americans who have offensive posts and to call their employers so they can be fired. And the vice president is threatening to prosecute political organizations that he disagrees with. Look, we are Article 1 of the Constitution, not foot lackeys for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. It is time that we stand up for our constitutional role to defend the freedoms of Americans. People are tired of us just giving our power to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. We have an obligation to our Constitution, not to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as they ride roughshod over the First Amendment. So in the name of all those who are being censored in Washington, D.C. and around the country, in the name of all those who are being intimidated in Washington, D.C. and around the country, in the name of Americans, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats who believe in the First Amendment and free speech, I motion today to subpoena Brendan Carr and to have him explain to the American people why he's bullying private individuals and private businesses. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pursuant to this rule, and I'll get the exact language so we make it official.
House Rule 11, Clause 2, Case 6.
Pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2.6, I motion to subpoena Brendan Carr to come before this committee and testify in front of the full Oversight Committee, and I hope that my motion to subpoena him will be voted on as soon as possible.
A motion is made. The committee will hold this motion in abeyance until 1:45. Give everybody time to get back in here.
Thank you.
And if I might say,
yes, sir.
I know Brendan Carr well, and
Mr. Chair, I hope you'll have him come in.
I think we could do that. I
appreciate that, sir.
We could. I don't think the motion's necessary, but I think he would. I'm pretty confident he would be willing to come in to testify. So
thank you.
Just say that. I don't think the motion's necessary. You want to withdraw the motion?
I still want the motions. All right. Well,
right.
you know, we'll do it, and he can come in. But I'd appreciate, you know, I've appreciated your working with our ranking member on Epstein, and I've appreciated your collaboration with him. Of course, I appreciate.
All right, right now you're watching a fiery hearing right there, oversight committee there, House Oversight Committee there on in D.C. talking about crime in D.C. That is Representative Ro Khanna there on your screen. Let's go now to this. This is happening here in Charlotte. Governor Josh Stein speaking. Make sure I get this information right. Okay, he's speaking at a major biotech summit to explore its role in medical innovation. So that is Governor Stein. It's happening now in Charlotte. I do have a crew there covering it. Julie Kay is there covering, and she'll have more of that story for us later on WCNC Plus and on WCNC Charlotte. But for now, let's listen in to what Governor Stein is saying. He just got to the podium.
Economic activity every year, $12 billion in pharmaceutical exports, and $2.4 billion in state and local revenues. Now, I know I threw a lot of numbers at you, but every one of them started with a B. Big numbers. Biotechnology ranges from biologics and health informatics to crop engineering and gene therapy, among a lot more. We've developed a thriving cluster in North Carolina that serves to nurture, expand, and attract life sciences businesses to the state. It really is becoming a virtuous cycle. And the way I see it is that North Carolina and life sciences really are a perfect match. Our community colleges and world-class research universities are creating the workforce needed for today and tomorrow. Our entrepreneurs and investments in innovation, technology, and infrastructure have powered this state forward. I'm proud that North Carolina was named the top state for business in the country in 2025. For the third time in the last 4 years. And there's been a lot of recent news to prove that point. In the past few weeks alone, I was with Genentech in Holly Springs for its groundbreaking, and I was with Thermo Fisher Scientific for its ribbon cutting in Memphis. Earlier in the year, I was in Wilson with Johnson & Johnson at its groundbreaking, and I just had a call last week with another major pharmaceutical company that's going to have good news to share shortly. I look forward to that announcement. Historically, a lot of this activity has been focused on the triangle. But biotech is now expanding just beyond just that region. Dr. Atala was telling you about the incredible things that are happening up in the Triad in Winston-Salem. Charlotte, too, is emerging as a key hub for healthcare innovation. We're here at the Pearl, Charlotte's new innovation district where healthcare, science, technology, and enterprise are all coming together on the same campus so that they can build off of each other. In this Pearl, EarCAD has opened a new state-of-the-art surgical training school. And just down the road, Wake Forest University has expanded its School of Medicine here in the Queen City. People and businesses, healthcare providers, they want to be part of what is happening here in Charlotte, what you all are building. To the folks in this room who work to make North Carolina a top state for business and the next big thing in life sciences, I want to say thank you for your hard work because it is truly paying off for all of us. And to those of you who may be considering coming to North Carolina, we say welcome home. This week, I was proud to proclaim September 15th to 19th as Life Sciences Week in the state of North Carolina. I hope that today's event inspires us to strengthen our position as a leading life sciences hub. Let's keep investing in life-saving medicines, food innovation, and cutting-edge biomanufacturing. Let's commit ourselves to making the people of North Carolina safer, stronger, and healthier. So thank you. I wish you all success at this forum. And it's my pleasure to be able to call forward Mr. Gene Woods, whom we all know is CEO of Advocate Health, which is the nation's third largest nonprofit health system, and the visionary behind this wonderful institution and program. Dean?
Good afternoon.
All right, so that was Governor Josh Stein. He just wrapped up speaking. He is here in Charlotte again for a major summit, biotechnology summit that is happening. This is near Uptown, I believe. So again, Charlotte is hosting a major statewide biotechnology summit today, bringing together state leaders to explore the city's expanding influence in cutting-edge medical innovation. And so another thing that we're keeping our eye on that is set to start in just moments, we are awaiting to hear from CMPD to get an update on the 4-year-old that was shot and killed yesterday in Southwest Charlotte, specifically in the Still Creek area. We were reporting updates here on Live Impact News throughout the afternoon and in the morning. So CMPD is expected to hold a press conference in less than 10 minutes, give or take. In new developments today, 3 men are facing murder charges in connection with the shooting death of a 4-year-old boy in Still Creek. That's according to jail records. But again, we will hear from CMPD. This is a live look there in Uptown at headquarters there here in Charlotte. So as we keep an eye on that, we're going to take a step away. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right now, we are keeping our eye on this. This is inside CMPD headquarters in Uptown. We are awaiting a press conference, and this comes after the death of a 4-year-old who was shot and killed in the Still Creek area early Wednesday morning. Now, new developments today, 3 men are facing murder charges in connection with that shooting death of that 4-year-old boy. That's according to jail records, but we should learn more at this press conference that is set to start in just moments. You can see there, mic checks are underway, so it looks like this is about to start soon. So we'll send it there as soon as we see somebody in CMPD gets to the podium. All right, so let's shift gears now. Let's go to something live. Is this the House Oversight Committee? All right, let's go back to that. The House Oversight Committee meeting that is happening right now in our nation's capital. They're talking about crime in D.C. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
While holding these funds hostage, the president deployed National Guard in the name of public safety, instead of giving D.C. the funds necessary to provide safety. And at the same time, Donald Trump and congressional Republicans have made the largest cut in history to Medicaid, regardless of the fact that Medicaid expansion under the ACA led to a significant drop in violent crime nationwide. What we're seeing from this administration is unlawful, undemocratic, and follows the playbook of an authoritarian government. Across the country, a total of more than $4 billion in federal funding that supports American families, businesses, and local governments has been frozen or terminated. Withholding these federal government funds that have been constitutionally appropriated by Congress can and will be used to coerce other American states and cities into cooperating with this rogue administration in fear of having their cities occupied too. In Pierce County, in my district, they have nearly $200 billion of federal funds that could be at risk, which includes $706,000 grant from the Department of Homeland Security's Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Program that was abruptly terminated. These funds were dedicated to implementing, like the name says, targeted violence threat assessments in our schools to mitigate youth violence and radicalization. The Department of Homeland Security's letter stated that the grant was being terminated in part because the department, consistent with President Trump's direction, is focused on advancing the essential mission of enforcing immigration laws, securing the border, and combating anti-Semitism. Consequently, grant projects that support or have the potential to support activities not aligned with DHS's current focus do not effectuate the agency's current priorities. What is so explicitly clear to me is that this administration's excuses of sending the National Guard to local cities in defiance of the local governments in order to address crime and improve public safety are an absolute sham, when they are canceling funding left and right that would actually help our local governments address these very issues. Mr. Jackson, could you speak to how public safety is affected when you defund programs like targeted violence and terrorism prevention grants?
Yeah, I mean, a critical resource of our federal government has been helping states prepare to identify and intercept targeted violence across the country. In fact, the Department of Homeland Security was required to work with state government on that. But those resources through CISA and other preparatory agencies or departments are under siege. But what we're also concerned about is just the direct federal law enforcement resources for agencies like the ATF that are specifically focused on intercepting guns from getting into our communities. And again, with cities like D.C., where 95% of the guns are coming from outside the state, that federal law enforcement is crucial, but are now experiencing over 40% cut.
Would you say, in your experience, that local investments, like funding for local law enforcement, funding for targeted violence and terrorism prevention, funding for ATF programs, would have a greater effect on public safety than the militarization of our cities?
It's a fact, and frankly, that's what we've seen over the last 2 years with a 31% reduction in homicides. This year, we're still tracking for another 20% reduction in homicides, and we think that's a direct result of the resources to prevent violence before it happens.
Thank you for your answer, for your work, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. McGuire from Virginia in the corner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for coming here today. You know, as a Navy veteran, as a country, and I love watching.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We are at the bottom of the hour, 1:32, depending on what time you're looking at the stream. So 1:32. So you were just watching House Oversight Committee talk about crime in D.C. We want to go now to CMPD headquarters. What's happening right now, as we promised, press conference that is starting. Are we good to go with this? Are we good to go with the press? Okay, let's go to this press conference. CMPD is following up and holding this press conference with more information after a 4-year-old boy was shot and killed in Still Creek early Wednesday morning. Let's take a listen in.
Suspects fired into the residence, striking 4-year-old Jace, and he was pronounced deceased on scene. The suspects then fled the scene in the stolen vehicle. And I just want to stress the gravity of the situation, that a 4-year-old child has died over a car, over a stolen car. And I just want that to sink in for just a minute. This has deeply shaken the community and the officers that had to respond to this incident, and rightfully so. This happened during a time of day when people are getting out of bed, they're getting ready for school, walking to the bus stop, parents are getting ready for work. This is a time for family, for preparing for your day, not a time to be interrupted by violence and tragic loss. Our investigators worked tirelessly over the last 30 hours, following leads and piecing together numerous details to quickly apprehend these subjects. Yesterday, we received information that the possible suspects were in a white Jeep Cherokee. Officers located that Cherokee in South, ending around the 16,000 block of Duval Drive in the Steel Creek Division. That pursuit resulted in a barricade situation, and I want to thank the officers of our CMPD SWAT team, as well as the officers, patrol officers on scene, for bringing that barricade to a peaceful resolution. As a result of that incident, 3 suspects were taken into custody and transported here to LEC to be interviewed by detectives. A 4th suspect was located this morning in Raleigh by the Raleigh Police Department Fugitive Unit in coordination with our Violent Criminal Apprehension Team. The individuals arrested and charged in connection with this case are 24-year-old Marquise Guerrier, 20-year-old Angelo Hudson, 23-year-old Jordan Davis, and 18-year-old Anthony Abel. Each one of these individuals has been formally charged with murder. I want to extend my thanks to our partners with the York County Sheriff's Office with the information they were able to provide to us in this case, the Raleigh Police Department, the officers of our Steel Creek Division for their response, our CMPD SWAT team, VCAT, and Scarlet personnel who all assisted in bringing this case to a quick close. This is an unimaginable loss for the family. And as a parent, I can't imagine the thought of losing a child, and I know this doesn't bring closure to the family, but we do hope that this is a step towards delivering justice that will give them some peace, that even though they're suffering this loss right now, that we have worked hard to try and bring resolution to this case. And CMPD is as always, committed to protecting our neighborhoods and supporting our residents and ensuring that justice is served in this case and every case. So I'll take any questions you have now.
Major, if you can, please. We're hearing that the vehicle that was stolen may not have come from the home where the 4-year-old was at. Is that correct?
It was near the home. I won't go into the specifics of the owners of the cars and the details of the investigation, but it was in the vicinity of the home.
So my thought was that this may be just a chance that someone turned the light on in that 4-year-old's room, and that alone made him the target. Is that correct?
Certainly feasible.
The residents who saw this, was their residence the home of the 4-year-old, or is this another residence of the person who witnessed the car theft?
Yeah, yes, the residence was fired into, was the residence of the 4-year-old, where the subject was looking out the window.
Do you have any reason to believe that this could be gang-related?
I have no indication at this point. We're still very early. There's a lot of work still to do in this case, the exact motivation or any gang ties or anything like that.
You talked about the fact that this is over a car. Mm-hmm. From your perspective on vehicle thefts, how serious has this crime become that we're doing this? And it sounds like this group had a penchant for Dodge vehicles.
Mm-hmm. You know, every crime is serious, and cars come and go, and it's unfortunate that this incident turned violent. But we certainly don't want to take any crime lightly, and a lot of times, you know, property crime kind of takes a backseat to violent acts, but any of these acts can turn violent at any time. And that's what happened in this case, a property crime, which is usually a very simple thing. We're going to take something that doesn't belong to us, turned very tragic very quickly, and resulted in this very unfortunate loss.
Major, can you also clarify what happened prior to, we understand there was a Durango that was stolen in Cabarrus, also a Camaro that was stolen in York. What I'm understanding from the affidavit is the Durango was on scene with a 4-year-old, where the 4-year-old was killed. Was the Camaro also on scene of that? Or they tied to these suspects?
Again, still part of the ongoing investigation. I don't personally have all the ins and outs of everything. Our homicide detectives are piecing all of these things together to make sure we have the correct timeline of events that led up to this.
You mentioned York County. What was the connection there?
York County assisted us providing some information related to the case that made us able to make the apprehensions. Without getting into the specifics and the details of it, and all this will be able to be put out later. But for now, suffice to say, they provided some very important information that enabled us to make these arrests.
Major, also the priors for some of these folks, one of them was robbery with a dangerous weapon, prison time done. Another had some vehicle thefts and had been arrested for that earlier in the year. Does this seem to be a case with these suspects where it's repeat offenders cycling in and out of the system?
Every one of these offenders have had some prior contact with law enforcement, and that's just, unfortunately, sometimes the challenge we have to face is with people that are repeat offenders, and it's our responsibility to keep making those arrests, and we do our part and hope the justice system can do their part.
Major, what can you tell us about the arrest of the fourth suspect? Was he fleeing? Was he arrested while trying to get away still? Was he with family? What do you know about
I don't know the details of his specific arrest. I know that he was developed as a suspect and, for whatever reason, left Charlotte and was located in Raleigh.
Do we know how they located him? Was there a hit on a vehicle, or how was
I don't have the specifics. The Raleigh Police Department and our VCAT unit coordinated the apprehension of that suspect, and I don't know the exact means, investigative tools they utilized to locate him.
We can do one more question.
So you have an opportunity to speak with the family and deliver this news to them, and what was their reaction?
I have not personally spoken to the family. Our homicide unit handles the contact with the family, so I don't know what kind of reaction we've had. I personally, thoughts and prayers for this family during this unspeakable loss. This was entirely unnecessary. This is tragic. And as I said, as a parent, I can't imagine losing a child under any circumstances, and certainly not one like this. So, thank you.
All right, so you just heard there from CMPD talking about that case involving a 4-year-old that was shot and killed early Wednesday night. Here's what we know. Again, as I just said, a 4-year-old boy shot in Still Creek early Wednesday. 4 arrests have been made in this case, stemmed from multiple stolen vehicle spree that was happening. Again, learning new information about this, a tragic story. So we're going to step aside for just 2 minutes. Again, that press conference just wrapped up. For more information on this, you can catch that right now on our website, WCNC.com. Also on our app, WCNC Charlotte News app. And of course, we will continue to provide updates on this story here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to go to something live happening right now. We believe, and we'll clarify if, of course, if there's more information on this. But this looks like a rally, redistricting rally there in Indiana. The Indiana Democratic Party is holding this rally against mid-decade redrawing of congressional maps, redistricting at the State House. This has been a big topic all across the country. So that rally is happening there in Indiana. We're expected to hear from former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, also played a role in the Biden administration, held a cabinet seat in the Biden administration. But let's take a listen in to what's being said at this moment.
And to all of you beautiful people, it is so great to see so many of you here today in your house, the people's house, to stand up for voting rights of all Hoosiers. Give yourselves a hand. One of your state senators. I represent the downtown Indianapolis area. And I'm proud to stand here with you all today because this is an important moment in a critical movement to protect the voting rights of all Hoosiers. We're here today because too many people in our state are prioritizing proximity to power over public service. Absolutely. So, just last week, Governor Braun tried to justify gerrymandering by saying that we might not be as tight with the Trump administration if we drag our feet and don't redistrict fast enough. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that as the governor of the great state of Indiana, that Governor Mike Braun should be less worried about relationships with politicians out in D.C. and should be more concerned with making life better for Hoosiers. Because here's what we know, and here's what they know. We know that these failed Republican policies have pushed families too far. We know that if they were really listening to Hoosiers, they would know that our utility bills are suffocating us. They would know that our property tax bills are becoming impossible, especially for our seniors who are on fixed incomes, right? They would know that if they were paying attention. And if they were paying attention, they would know that we are in a child care crisis right now. Campaign trail, Governor Braun promised to fix the child care crisis, by the way, but he spent no time breaking that promise as soon as he got into office. I want to make that really clear. We also know that there are hundreds of thousands of Hoosiers who are getting ready to lose their health care because of failed Republican policies. So when we rush into session, because it's so urgent and there's an emergency, are we going to be solving any of these problems? No. They want to set up a power grab. They want to set up a cheating scandal is what they want to do. And so we have to make sure that they know that we're not going silently. We will not go silently. Republicans are being stiff-armed by Donald Trump to rig our elections because they know that they can't win otherwise. We are going to make sure that we continue to raise our voices, that we continue to make phone calls, that we continue to sign those petitions, and that we continue to show up just as you have today. Absolutely. Because while it might be legal to rig maps based on political affiliation, it is not legal to rig maps based on race. And we want to be really clear that the two...
All right, we want to shift away from this now, and we want to head back home, here at home, because right now, happening live, Governor Josh Stein is speaking. He's at a major biotech summit there, but he is holding a press conference right outside of that. Let's take a listen to what Governor Stein is saying at this moment.
In their communities, on their way to work or school, in their daily lives. We can and must do more to make sure that we are protecting the people of North Carolina. I urged the mayor last week to surge law enforcement across the public transit system, and I'm grateful that she did. It's a good start, and we have to keep it up. With more public safety on trains and law enforcement in our communities, we can deter criminal activity, and we can start the work of rebuilding trust. We also have to take a close look at our pretrial system and make sure that it is protecting people. The Pretrial Integrity Act, passed by the Republican legislature with bipartisan support by a number of these legislators here today, signed into law by Governor Cooper in 2023, was a good start, and it shows that we can and we should continue to work across the aisle to make progress. We all know that having mental health issues does not equal violence. At the same time, to keep people safe, our judges and magistrates need better training and tools to respond when a defendant's mental health situation and history of violence may create real concerns for public safety. We need to institute mental health risk exams to determine whether those concerns pose a real risk to public safety and to give those people the right place to go for treatment. Of course, we have to have enough mental health practitioners to conduct these exams and enough healthcare facilities to respond to behavioral health needs. As we've seen, magistrates play a weighty and often overlooked role in the criminal justice process. They're working hard to make important decisions under difficult circumstances. In addition to making sure that they have the training that they need, we need to make sure that magistrates have a clear single supervisor who has authority over them through oversight. More accountability, including an unambiguous chain of command, published disciplinary processes, and common sense removal procedures will boost confidence in our system. Some pretrial decisions, such as those where there is a concern about a person's mental health and their history of violence, should be reserved for judges instead of magistrates to determine any release conditions. We also need to respond to mental health crises as effectively as we can. When law enforcement partners with trained mental health professionals to respond to a crisis together, we can better keep people safe, both the public at law and the individual involved. It also relieves pressure on law enforcement so that they have more time to respond to other public safety calls. I want to underscore, we need more well-trained law enforcement officers on the streets keeping us safe. I've been calling for raises for law enforcement for years. We ask them to put themselves in harm's way, and we frequently will express our appreciation to them verbally, and it is time that we put our money where our mouth is. Unfortunately, the General Assembly has not yet passed a full budget this year, but it is not too late to rectify some gaps that have been made painfully clear. In the absence of a full budget, but ahead of their return to Raleigh on Monday, I sent a letter to the leaders of the General Assembly urging them to fund 3 key investments immediately. Public safety is one of them. I continued to call on them to fund my $195 million public safety package. It provides pay raises and recruitment and retention bonuses for state and local law enforcement officers, increases co-responder teams, defends North Carolina's communities from community and school-based violence, creates a cold case unit to deliver justice to survivors of sexual assault, and a unit to combat the fentanyl and opioid crisis. These proposals are about keeping you and your families safe. Later, you'll hear from Kings Mountain Chief Gerald Childress. He's the regional director of the Association of Chiefs of Police. I also call on the legislature to appropriately value our public servants with salary increases, especially given the rising cost of living. That includes our teachers who recently started another school year without a pay raise. Our teachers are among the worst paid in the entire country. Yet they are the #1 in-school factor of our students' success. It is long past time that the state of North Carolina gave our teachers a real pay raise. I'm asking the legislature to raise teacher pay by an average of 5.9%, restore master's pay, and give all other school personnel a 3% raise. Soon you will hear from the chair of our State Board of Education, Mr. Eric Davis, who will lay out the needs that we are seeing. I am also calling on the legislature to give our state employees at least a 2% pay increase. We have a 20% vacancy rate across state government. This raise would help us to recruit and retain talented public servants providing important services to our people. Public safety and teacher pay are issues that we cannot keep kicking down the road. Neither is health care, and on health care, we are on the clock. If the legislature does not act on Medicaid by October 1st, the system will be at risk. In July, the General Assembly passed a bill that provided helpful support to the program, but unfortunately, it was not enough to fully fund it. Without additional funding, the Medicaid program will be forced to make painful cuts to the rates that it pays our healthcare professionals, because by law, the system cannot spend money that it does not have. So we find ourselves teetering on the brink of serious cuts. I do not want these cuts to come into effect, and I don't believe that the House or the Senate want these cuts to come into effect. I am confident that a solution exists, and I'm committed to working with our colleagues, both Democratic and Republican in the General Assembly, to achieve that solution. The Office of State Management, Budget and Management, and the Department of Health and Human Services, nonpartisan actuaries and economists project that we need $319 million to fully fund the program and protect critical health care services. DHHS and my administration have been in talks with legislators about how we can get more funding and avoid these damaging cuts. We will continue those good faith efforts to find a solution. If the legislature passes the full amount needed, we can avoid these cuts altogether. If the legislature appropriates a lesser amount, the amount recommended by its own Fiscal Research Division, DHHS can delay the cuts and work with the legislature on longer-term solutions to tackle the rising cost of health care. But the money needed to delay these cuts is needed now. It cannot wait until next month. If the General Assembly does not take action now, the cuts to people's health care and to essential health care providers will be devastating. Carolyn Allison, who's CEO of the Charlotte Community Health Clinic, will speak later about this devastation. I'm encouraged by the conversations we've been having with the legislature as recently as yesterday. There is a straightforward path to a clean Medicaid bill.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are approaching the top of the hour. Right there on your screen live is North Carolina Governor Josh Stein speaking there outside of a Biotech summit there in Charlotte. He's talking about some of the things happening here specifically to Charlotte, the Irina Zarutska case, safety on transit, also legislation regarding that. Hitting on those points right there, that is Governor Stein again speaking. We want to come back out. We want to take a quick break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is in studio. Jeb is here in studio. So we want to get to a major story, a story that broke yesterday afternoon that is continuing to generate comments from both sides of the aisle, quite frankly. We're talking about the show, the late night show, Jimmy Kimmel Live. And this comes after Disney, ABC, and definitely pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air after pressure from the Federal Communications Commission over his comments about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. And look, this story has brought up questions regarding the First Amendment, free speech. And we want to bring in Professor Israel Balderas, Assistant Professor of Media Law and Ethics at Elon University. Professor Balderas, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Nick. I appreciate this.
Let's talk about it. So again, there's a lot of talk about free speech, the First Amendment specifically. I think people have a vague knowledge of it. Can you explain the First Amendment and what it means?
Absolutely. You know, when it comes to the First Amendment, right, it gives us the freedom of expression in a society that is free. And in order for us to live freely with each other, the First Amendment protects a fundamental right, right? The United Nations recognizes freedom of expression as a human right. But the First Amendment applies when the government tries to take away your speech, right? That is the whole purpose of the Bill of Rights under the Constitution. So when people talk about, I have a freedom of expression, yes, in a free society, we want to hear all voices. We want to be tolerant of all voices. But the question is, when you have a claim of free speech, does it apply to everyone or does it apply when the government is involved? And in this case, the government is not involved directly. Certainly Disney is a private corporation, right? They have the power to decide what is or is not appropriate content for their TV stations, as opposed to the government saying this is not allowed in the airwaves. And I think right now what we're looking at is the former and not the latter.
With that being said, what are the protections surrounding the First Amendment?
Well, the protections, we've got 5 rights, right? We got religion, we got speech, we got press, right? I'm a former television journalist. I love freedom of the press. We got right to assembly. We got right to petition our government for redress. But the issue always involves, what does free speech mean? In a free society, that's a pretty broad standard. But when it comes to this case, specifically with Jimmy Kimmel, right? Jimmy Kimmel works for a corporation. And Disney was pressured, yes, at first, by the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, who earlier this week, he went on air and said, look, what Jimmy Kimmel said on Monday night, which was mischaracterizing the intent of the individual who's accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Many took issue with that. The question is, for TV stations that aired that specific broadcast, are they serving the public interest of the broadcast when those kinds of words were uttered on Monday night? And Disney pulled his show because 2 big companies, Nexstar and Sinclair, told Disney, we're not going to air Jimmy Kimmel anymore. That becomes a market power, not necessarily government censorship.
With that being said, how do you teach this and break this down to your students? You're talking about a younger generation of voters, again, a younger generation. How do you break this down to your students and teach this to your students?
You know, today what I'm going to go into the classroom, I'm going to say, guess what? This question about whether or not Jimmy Kimmel has a First Amendment claim against Disney, it's going to be in your midterm exam. Why is that? Because students are paying attention to what's happening. And I'm telling you, Nick, every day, like the front page of the New York Times writes my curriculum, right? Because every day seems like there is an attack on the First Amendment. But the first thing I always say is, it's good for you to defend your freedom of speech. The question in a free society is, how much are you willing to defend the speech you don't like for someone else, right? And to me, when I tell them about the First Amendment, I always tell them about the great philosopher Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, because Uncle Ben told Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, you and I know that comes from Voltaire, but nonetheless, right, freedom of speech is a right and a responsibility. And the students understand that in order to protect the speech that I care about, I got to protect the speech that I might necessarily not like, even speech sometimes that is hateful. Contrary to what Attorney General Pam Bondi said earlier this week, which she was wrong as a matter of law and as a matter of fact. The First Amendment protects hate speech. A lot of young people don't like to hear that. However, when you have the government deciding what is or is not hate, then they begin to see why the First Amendment matters.
Can you talk a little bit about that? It sounds like that's the conversation you're having in the classroom. Also, that obviously that's what you're teaching. But can you talk a little bit more about the conversation you're having there in the classroom and the reaction from your students as you're starting to have these conversations?
Absolutely. I got to tell you, listen, at the beginning of the semester, I started with one philosophy of the First Amendment, and that is I got to teach my students about what does it mean to be free in a free society. But a lot of things changed last week. The murder of Charlie Kirk was devastating, not just for a free society, but for people who really defend the First Amendment. And the first thing I told my students last week in class is I said, you have to understand something. Charlie Kirk was assassinated for speech, period. End of the sentence. Anything that follows after that. You may not like what he stood for, you may not like what he believed in. However, it doesn't matter. The First Amendment doesn't look at the content of what people say. What the First Amendment cares about is individual expression. And so therefore, for the last week, we've been talking about what does that mean? Freedom. Because freedom is much different now, Nick, than it was just a few weeks ago. And now we're seeing the effects of what happens when people say things. Over the weekends, you and I probably know people that got fired from private corporations because they said things that the corporation didn't like. Down in Charlotte, the Carolina Panthers fired someone for posting social media. Now, my students think, well, that's not fair. Okay, you're correct in a free society. However, a corporation has every right to fire people if they say things that in some way embarrasses the corporation. But the First Amendment really is important when it comes to government action. Now, in this case, certainly the FCC did threaten Disney. Brendan Carr said on a radio show, look, Disney, you can either do it the easy way or the hard way, right? You can either take care of your own or we'll take care of it for you. That's a bit of jawboning. That's when the government forces a private entity to do something that they can't do directly. However, you know, there's this theory about the First Amendment, and that is that the marketplace of ideas matters in a free society because the truth and the falsehood of claims do battle in the marketplace of ideas, and we believe that here in a free society, the truth will prevail. In this case, Nexstar and Sinclair, who owns TV stations that have ABC licenses, they felt that for them to serve the public interest, they could not air Jimmy Kimmel anymore. And look, those were market forces. Is that a lot of power by a corporation? Absolutely. But that's a different issue. We've been having consolidation, media consolidation, for years and years. It is a concern under the First Amendment. And now people are starting to see the First Amendment is first among all the other rights because this matters. Freedom matters. Individual expression matters. And so therefore, I think more and more people are paying attention. And I would say that my students are the best because they really understand that to be a communication professional today, you got to defend the First Amendment no matter what.
Yeah, there's a conversation happening not only in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. And it's a conversation we wanted to bring here on Live Impact News. Professor Israel Balderas, Assistant Professor, Media Law and Ethics at Elon University. Professor Balderas, thank you for your time. Thank you for stopping by, and thank you for being so generous with your time.
My pleasure, as always. I used to be a television anchor reporter in Charlotte. My heart is still down there at the Queen City. Queen City.
Look, we'll have to have you come in studio one of these days when you're down here.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but Elon University and Queen University are now in partnership. So I may come down there and visit you more often nowadays, Nick.
Good point there. Yeah, we look forward to it. Professor Balderas, again, thank you for your time. Have a great day, sir.
Sounds good. Take care.
Right. Great context there. And the conversation we wanted to bring here and break down for you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Serderman. Carlene is here. Jeb is here in studio. Let's go back to, we'll stay here at home. Let's go back to that press conference that Governor Stein was having outside of the Biotech Summit. He's answering questions right now. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
Care get adequately compensated.
Deputy Russell with WBTV. What have you heard about the federal government coming here to do a subcommittee meeting talking about violence, and we all know about National Guard going into cities? What do you know about that, and what is your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I just know what I read in the paper, that there was some interest of a House subcommittee looking into the situation. What we need to have safe communities is to have more well-trained professional law enforcement officers in our communities, proactively policing. When they're out and about, criminals don't act. So what I want to see is more well-trained officers. We don't need soldiers on our streets. Let's use that money that's very expensive and actually apply it to making sure we have more law enforcement officers who can serve our community, deter crime, and hold those who commit crime accountable.
Yeah, how about the Illinois governor pushed back and National Guard did not go to Chicago. So what is your strategy, and have you had those conversations, and what would be your strategy to push back and not have that National Guard come to Charlotte?
Well, we're in the middle of hurricane season, and I actually 2 or 3 weeks ago had to deploy the National Guard out to the Outer Banks in advance of Hurricane Aaron. Fortunately, it was further offshore and didn't create widespread damage, but let's have the National Guard focus on what the job of the National Guard is. Let's not have them do law enforcement when we have law enforcement officers to do that work. We just need to pay them appropriately.
Casey Jones, WCCB News. The Mecklenburg County District Attorney expressed a gap in the system where he says that after a person is found mentally unfit to stand trial, they are often sent right back to the street. Where do the legislative priorities need to be in terms of mental health to make sure that those people don't end up back on the street?
It's very important that we have, for those folks who have clear mental health, psychoses, and a history of violence, that we have some test, some evaluation mechanism to determine what their risk is and then act accordingly. There are reforms that we can do to the involuntary commitment statute in North Carolina. Obviously, we don't want to deprive people of their liberty without thorough due process, but there are times when a person is a real risk to other people or to themselves where that is the appropriate resolution.
Republicans are blaming
Can we stick to one question? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Governor Evan Donovan, WSNC Channel 9. I just want to follow up on that right there, because your proposals today and your initial tweet after when you first talked about the Redistricting's murder mentioned policing. But a lot of people, there was some criticism of that because this suspect was arrested at least a dozen times. Do you see this as more of a mental health issue? Do you plan to ask the legislature for more funding for state mental health facilities, for mental health care? And what changes specifically, since you just mentioned it, would you make to the involuntary commitment law?
Yeah, well, the issue has to do with when you have somebody who has been arrested for a crime, and the crimes that he was arrested for were misdemeanors later. Some of them were violent offenses, and he had sentenced to prison for one of those violent offenses, but it was for misusing the 911 system. But that person came before a magistrate, and it was clear that there were issues that needed addressing. If we had a mental health evaluation exam to see whether that person posed a risk, then the magistrate could have authority to preventative detain him to keep him from entering the community and causing harm.
But where would we send him, knowing that?
I mean, that's one reason why Medicaid is a part of this conversation, because a lot of our healthcare, mental health care services are provided through Medicaid, and we have to have a strong, robust healthcare system that serves both people's physical needs but also people's mental health needs. And so going backwards on Medicaid is exactly the wrong direction when we need to go forward and provide more health care to people in need.
Governor Stein, Julie Kay with WCNC Charlotte. Our local government here at the city and county level has been criticized for how long it took to respond and put some safety precautions in place on the train system. What's your response to how the local government has responded?
Yeah. I think everybody wishes that we'd been more on our toes and the local government had been more on its toes. I'm gratified that the local government has surged law enforcement and safety officials on the transit system. They've increased the number of people doing that work. They've also increased deployment of technology at the train station so they can use that to promote a sense of safety and security. I know that the local government cares deeply about this city. They care deeply about the people of the city. They're working hard to provide the best services they possibly can, to have the strongest, most vibrant economy with good paying jobs as they can. But every one of us in public life wants to do better. And I'm sure that they would say they want to do better.
Anyone else have a question? Okay, I'll let you have a question. Republicans are blaming policies, specific measures like cashless bail and raise the age for the rise in violent crime. Are there any specific state laws that you believe maybe need to be reevaluated based on current crime trends in the state?
There was a bill that was passed a couple of years ago to look at pretrial release policies, and the legislature on a bipartisan basis strengthened those policies. I think we should review them and determine when you have the intersection between a crime that may not have been itself a violent crime, but you have a person who has a history of violence, to then have a different process for that person to make sure they don't slip through the cracks.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry you have to get to another meeting, but if you do have additional questions, as you know, you can email govpress@nc.gov.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Appreciate you being here.
I'll send you a note about the time.
Thank you.
All right, so that is a live look at Governor Josh Stein here in Charlotte. Just finished wrapping up a press conference, answering some questions from reporters. So he is just wrapping up. And again, there is a major biotech summit happening that he spoke at, and then obviously holding this press conference as it is going on. All right, so we want to shift gears. We want to go now to back to D.C. So happening right now, a House Oversight Committee is meeting on when it comes to crime in D.C. I believe I saw a shot of D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser. She's there. Okay. And so again, this meeting is focused on crime in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Let's take a listen in to what's being said.
2021, two teenage girls brutally murdered their Uber driver. They literally called the Uber, they lured him in, they ran over him with his own car, and when they turn 21, they will be let out. So they're going to get 3, 4, 5 years for murdering someone intentionally. Do you believe that 3, 4, 5 years for murdering someone intentionally, and by the way, I think they won't have a criminal record when they age out. Do you think that that is justice, and do you think that the victim and his family have gotten retribution?
Our system has to hold young people accountable when they commit crimes and hurt people. And when they are held accountable, they should face swift and certain consequences.
Do you think 4 years is enough for murder?
Because that's what we do to try to make our city safe.
Do you think 4 years is enough for murder?
Under our system, long punishments are not what has been proven to
All right, so that is a House Oversight meeting. It looks like, okay, the shot froze for a little bit, so let's take a listen back in. It looks like we got the shot back.
Have no criminal record in 3 or 4 years. That is not justice. And if you think that that is appropriate, you will have zero authority. And I'm telling you right now, you got to change your ways. I mean, the intern that was shot and killed in the midst of, I guess, gang violence, you think that when they age out, I mean, because they're being federally prosecuted, they're going to get tried as an adult. Had that not been occurred, what would happen? They would get what, 3, 4 years for killing a random 21-year-old?
Mr. Timmons, nobody cares more about public safety in our city than the 700,000 of us who live here.
Yeah, and you know what? For the last 45 days, for the first time, they have been
700,000
safe
people who
for the
have
last
elected
45
local
days.
officials and an attorney general who reflect
For the
their
first
views
time?
on how to
Oh,
keep
no,
our city safe.
You, again, you're going to lose power, you're going to lose authority because the views that you have are wrong. They're wrong, and we free D.C. Yeah, D.C.'s been free for 45 days. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from ABC News that said prosecutors already have dropped nearly a dozen cases from Trump's D.C. crime surge. And I want to just explain briefly, this is because
Without objection, so ordered.
Janine Pirro is trying
Chair
to prosecute
recognizes
cases
Ms.
that a
Presley.
grand
You're
jury
taking Ms.
will not
Presley's
even
time.
indict in because
You're taking Ms.
she
Presley's
is
time. Ms.
not
Presley,
actually
start the
indicting
clock.
crimes.
Ms. Presley.
Thank you to our witnesses for being here today. What we are seeing in this moment is chilling. The current occupant of the White House is sending federal troops into this beautiful majority black city. And let's be plain about who is being targeted. In this year alone, more than 93% of youth arrests in D.C. were of black youth. More than 40% of the arrests tied to this federal surge have been immigrants. This is not about safety. This is about suppressing black leadership, stopping black progress, and criminalizing black and brown youth. Mr. Jackson, you have an expertise in reducing crime, specifically gun violence, and you have researched what works and actually keeps people safe. We've heard a lot of rhetoric today, loud, inflammatory, dangerous, misleading at best, so let's separate fact from fiction. I'll make a statement and you'll answer with fact or fiction. Let's start. A 14-year-old has a fully developed brain.
Fiction.
Yes, that's fiction. Easy. Middle schoolers are still learning and growing. Science tells us the brain isn't fully developed until our mid to late 20s, which means children do not have the same judgment, impulse control, or decision-making capacity as adults. Yet just this week, Republicans passed legislation that would prosecute children as adults and send them to adult prisons. Children in adult prisons. Next question, Mr. Jackson, fact or fiction? The criminal legal system incarcerates black youth at disproportionately higher rates than white youth.
Fact.
Correct. That's fact. Nationally, black kids are 6 times as likely as white kids to be incarcerated. In D.C., the focus of today's hearing, the disparities are even more stark. Despite making up only 51% of the youth population, black children in D.C. are 98% of youth confinement. For too long, black youth have been disproportionately criminalized, policed, and locked up for normal adolescent behavior rather than receive resources and support that are proven to help them grow and reach their full potential. Last one, Mr. Jackson, fact or fiction? Trauma-informed strategies like community violence intervention help to disrupt cycles of violence.
Fact.
Correct. That's a fact. Investing in prevention, mental health, and community-based support keeps people safe. These are real, sustainable solutions. In the Massachusetts 7th, which I represent, cities like Boston, which Trump has threatened to attack next, are partnering with organizations like the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute to make these investments and are seeing historic lows in crime as a result. If Republicans were actually serious about reducing crime, they would follow that example, but they are so unserious. Instead of going after predators and pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein, they are going after children, passing policies to ship middle schoolers to adult prisons. That is child abuse. And it is consistent with their pattern of abuse and neglect when it comes to all our children. They let children go hungry by cutting SNAP. They make children sicker by cutting Medicaid and taking away vaccines. They strip environmental protections, leaving more kids gasping for air during asthma attacks. They rip families apart with cruel immigration policies as children watch their parents taken away from classroom windows, and they ignore the strange fruit of young black men like Trey Reed hanging from the trees of Mississippi. Time and again, Republicans prove they are unserious about the care, the health, and the future of all our children. They are invested only in fear and control, and that's what they're doing here today. Republicans are certainly not keeping us safe. Free D.C.
Free D.C. Chair recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mendelson, thank you for coming today. You chair the D.C. City Council, and you have since 2012, is that right?
Correct.
And you've been on the City Council itself since '98?
Correct.
27 years. I don't know when '98 became 27 years ago, but it is. Sir, would you Somebody asked you if you supported soft on crime policies. Would you agree with that, or would you vehemently disagree with that?
I would vehemently disagree with that.
So do you support or oppose President Trump's executive order to federalize the D.C. police and permit the National Guard to assist in law enforcement?
I did not agree with it on multiple counts. It attempted to take over the police department. I think.
And I apologize, it's limited time, but you don't agree. Okay, thank you. Do you think that, sir, that D.C. is safe?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So that's one of the reasons why you would oppose it, because you feel it's safe already. Okay.
Well, no, that's not completely correct. I
You do,
think
but
that
again, limited time, but you
additional law
you said that
enforcement
DC
officers would be helpful.
is safe. Well, yeah, it would make it safer, but you did say it was safe. Do you know who Michael Pulliam is?
Do I know what what is?
Michael Pulliam is?
Not offhand.
Okay, he was the 3rd District Police Commander. He was placed on leave
Yes.
for questionable changes to
Yes.
crime data, and then he said that leadership in MPD directed falsifying data. Do you know who Greg Pemberton is? I believe you do, because you had an interchange with Mr. Jordan.
Yes, and actually I'd like to speak to that.
Well,
Because he's
you know,
tweeted
I don't have the
in front of me.
time, but you do know who he is, and you know that he said that supervisors frequently ordered officers to report lesser felonies, and you said that he was a liar. Is that correct?
And I can tell you why, and
Okay,
I'd like
well,
to tell
I'm not
you why.
interested in that, honestly, right now, because we have limited time. I wish I had more time and we could talk about it.
Yes, but he has threatened me by tweet in the last hour.
So he said that they downgraded certain categories. So the categories that aren't tracked, so very serious felonies were downgraded. So we have highly credible reports and evidence that crime data in D.C. has been underreported, and there's could be very likely a conspiracy to cook the books. So you said that D.C. is safe. So it's interesting and telling that when you compare D.C. to other capital cities around the world, let's say Bogota, Colombia, the murder rate is 15 per 100,000. Lima, Peru, it's 7.5. Mexico City's 11. To give it context, tourist cities like Paris, Madrid, and London are 1 out of 100,000. Do you know what the D.C. number is? I know it varies, but do you know the latest number?
Well, I know that violent crime per 100,000 for D.C. is about 1,005.
I said the murder rate. Murder rate per 100,000.
I'd have
you
to
know
do
what
the
that is?
math.
It's 27 per 100,000, which is much higher than some of the most dangerous cities in the capital cities in the world.
And
So
lower
if
than other cities in the United States.
Yeah, which are even worse than Honduras. So if D.C. was its own country, Mr. Mendelson, there's 193 member states in the UN. Where would D.C. rank if you just use the murder rate?
Well, I know we would celebrate the autonomy.
You'd celebrate the autonomy, and you'd be the 5th most dangerous country in the world out of 193.
Sir, I live in the District of
Sir, this is
Columbia,
my
and I
time,
feel
Mr.
safe.
Chairman. I reclaim my time. 5th most dangerous country in the world, and the only ones that would beat us would be countries like Jamaica, Ecuador, Haiti, and Honduras. That's not safe. I would say that's extraordinarily dangerous. Mr. Schwab, did you refer to President Trump's efforts as dangerous and harmful?
And unlawful.
Okay, thank you. And it's interesting you say dangerous and harmful, because August 11th through 25th, carjackings were down 87%, 1,200 arrests were made, 120 guns were seized, 88% of arrests had charges brought, and for a 12-day period, gloriously in our nation's capital, nobody was murdered, not a single homicide. That's an odd definition of dangerous and harmful. So there have been, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, soft on crime policies. No cash bail. 89% of defendants last year were not held while awaiting trial, allowing adults as old as 24 to be treated as minors during all of these policies, Mr. Mendelson, that you supported. And according to D.C. and statistics and the FBI, violent crimes in D.C. when you took over in 1998 compared to last year were up 46%. The precise numbers right here. So it is a dire problem. It is an emergency. There is a clear and present danger to the good and law-abiding citizens of Washington, D.C., and not just them, the tourists and all Americans, because this is a unique city. It belongs not just to the residents, but to all Americans. And it would be the 5th most dangerous country in the world. If this was its own country, Mr. Chairman, the United States would issue a travel advisory. That's how bad it is. So I would applaud, and I do applaud, President Trump's bold actions for MDCSA to make D.C. safe again. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Tlaib from Michigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think it's really important. I mean, we're talking about, 700,000 people that live here, and I feel like their voice gets completely just dismissed. And so, if I may, Mr. Chair, ask unanimous consent to enter the record the Washington Post poll of D.C. residents found 8 out of 8 in 10 opposed Trump's taking over of their local police and sending in federal troops.
Without objections ordered.
You know, I think it's also really important to understand, like, the incredible kind of slanderous, like, defamation, I don't know what to call it. They're just burying Washington, D.C. You just heard them speak about our nation's capital in that way, in a way that I feel very much like that's not what I see. I see people walking around with their families, people enjoying time to see these beautiful, incredible, beautiful monuments and everything. And there's a pride here, too. And so I just want to bring the D.C. residents into this committee, because I feel like they are being made invisible. And this really ugly picture that is not reflective. And I'm from Detroit. I've seen it happen to my city. And it's despicable in a way that I feel like, you know, really goes up against our values. You know, one of the things that I know in every abuse of power that, you know, we let President Trump and the administration get away with in D.C., it will be replicated. It will be expanded across the country, and it is going to tear apart our communities. You know, Mr. Jackson, I talked to you about a little bit about this, but I think it's important to understand that we do have a mental health crisis, that we have a housing crisis, affordability crisis. Can you police any of those away?
No.
You can't police away homelessness. And the way they talk about our homeless neighbors is so, I mean, no wonder there's violence increasing towards homeless neighbors. I see it already, the brutality of it. When we see housing costs go up, when we see, again, the lack or dismissiveness of the mental health crisis that we continue to grow. And it's not just this administration, and the previous administrations as well. No one has moved with the urgency that is needed. Just last week, you know, the committee approved over a dozen bills regarding Washington, D.C. And, you know, I'm just curious. I mean, criminalize children. My colleague from Boston talked about this. It basically interfered with legislation already passed by the local government. Was anyone on this panel consulted? Any of you? Raise your hand if you were consulted on any of these bills. Yeah.
We were not.
You know, one of the things that, you know, AG, I've been listening to you. You know, one of the bills actually eliminates your position completely. What effect would that have? I mean, completely eliminating your position in regards to be able to do the job that you do to protecting all the families in Washington, D.C.?
We'll start with the fact that more than 70% of the residents of the District of Columbia overwhelmingly voted for having an independent elected Attorney General.
That's right.
And that's a recognition of the fact that when an Attorney General is directly accountable to the people, directly responsive to the people, we are much better at doing our job in terms of addressing housing affordability and conditions in slumlords, seniors and consumers who are being scammed, addressing the issues that are most important to D.C. residents, because I am accountable to them.
I read wage theft is an issue, workplace discrimination. I mean, there's a number of issues that need to be addressed, and they're not going to address that. They want to paint you all as this ugly, dark, all just out in the street. I mean, the way it's just unbelievable because they all live here. I don't see it. I don't see what they see. I don't understand why we're allowing that to happen, because I actually think it's going to hurt our communities. People are going to look at Washington, D.C. folks in a way that I think is going to be very painful, but also, you know, I don't know, Mr. Jackson, I heard the stories. People didn't leave their homes. They weren't leaving their homes. Businesses didn't see people coming into, I mean, that's what we want in our nation's capital. Stay in your house. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Stay fearful. It's unbelievable that my colleagues continue again to eject this narrative and this rhetoric in regards to it. But I think it's important, Mr. Chair, just like in D.C. Home Rule was won out of black freedom struggle in the fight for civil rights, we can't be passive right now. So nobody over there should take anything we say you know, like so personally as if we're attacking them. No, we're attacking a process. We're not attacking people here. And I think it's really important we need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in DC and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames and or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen. You're just reading it. No, you're just reading it or something off of some.
Will the gentlelady yield to a question?
Yeah, I think it's really important.
Will the gentlelady
No, I
yield?
don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you.
Your time's expired.
It is expired, but Mr. Chair.
Some.
But you all live
like
here,
Mr.
and
Lee.
you're not telling people the beautiful parts that you do see in our
Mr.
nation's
Lee.
capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues. We were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Talib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it goes.
It's okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold
Washington,
myself
D.C.
accountable.
Washington, D.C.
Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own self accountable. How about that?
Free D.C. and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody
Ms.
else.
Talib, all right, time. Chair recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado. Order. Wait a minute, Ms. Boebert. All right. Order. Ms. Boebert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This has certainly been lively today. Madam Mayor, I appreciate you being here today, and I have a few questions for you. Do you believe in regard to crime, D.C. City Council is moving the district in the right direction or wrong direction?
The City Council and I are working.
Right or wrong direction?
We're moving in the right direction.
Now, okay. Why in 2023 did you veto the council's updates to the criminal code to eliminate most mandatory minimum sentences, reduce mandatory maximum penalties, and allow jury trials for misdemeanors?
Well, I made clear at the time my objections to the rewrite of the criminal code. The criminal code does
your
need to be
objection was
updated.
this bill does not make us safer. Is that correct?
That's what I believe.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Bowser, as we know, City Council over.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Let's take a step away from this. This is a House Oversight Committee, a spirited meeting happening there in D.C. on crime in D.C. So let's take a step away from that. We want to get to some breaking news. We actually have a camera there in that area, photographer. Take a look at this. So right now, CMPD is on scene in Uptown, specifically the 100 block of Brevard Court. So there's a homicide investigation happening right now. Here's what we have from CMPD. This is what they have given us. Detectives with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department's homicide unit are conducting a homicide investigation in the 100 block of Brevard Court in the Central Division. And again, they go on to say as more information comes in, they'll be able to share it. But you can see this area, it is completely taped off. We do know, and I'm kind of going back and forth on our team's channel with information. According to Medic, this was a shooting. That's from what I gather. Am I reading the right thing, Carlene? Mm-hmm. Okay. Medic. The question was asked to Medic, are they responding to a shooting? They said one person has been treated for life-threatening injuries and taken to a local hospital. So again, CMPD is now confirmed that this is a homicide investigation there in Uptown. Are you familiar with where this is
Oh,
from?
for sure. We kind of all are.
Yeah.
Because it's right there hard of Uptown.
Yeah, I was about
right
to say.
near where Mayor Bearden's, not too far from the stadium.
Yeah, this is a very popular. I can tell because of the construction equipment that was around it. But yeah, this is a very popular area. This is very busy. Think about it come game day. I'm thinking about
popping.
Sundays when the Panthers are in town, when they're not even in town.
Charlotte FC when it's
Charlotte
poppin'.
FC.
Yeah, it's a popping area.
So we don't know the circumstances surrounding this shooting and this homicide, but take a look. This is a map. This is a general area to kind of give you a view some locations there. If you're not familiar, this is like right around the corner from Bank of America Stadium. This is Romare Bearden Park is right there in the area. As Harley mentioned, this is right here in the heart of Uptown. So this is a map. Let's go back to the scene. This is a look at the scene. You can see homicide detectives there, CSI on scene. This is a pretty large area that's kind of blocked off, taped off right now.
That's been taped off. Yeah.
We don't have specific details on what exactly happened, but you see there are officers on the scene. It is taped off. We did ask medic, hey, what's happening? Are there reports of a shooting? They did confirm one person was being treated for life-threatening injuries. CMPD confirmed about 5 minutes ago a homicide investigation is underway.
CSI crews more and more just coming on.
Yeah. And so just by the sense of what's happening, it seems like they're really in the thick of their investigation. It doesn't look like they're searching at this scene. It doesn't look like they're actively searching for someone. But again, this is a very, very popular area. There are pubs, bars.
The alley.
A lot of people congregate in that area on the weekends, especially, and definitely on game night if that's Charlotte FC, if that's Carolina Panthers. So we have a crew there working to learn more. Again, just to kind of provide some context, if you're new to the area, not familiar.
It's the heart of everything.
Heart of everything. Bank of America Stadium, Romare Bearden Park. A lot happens there. It's not far from a lot of sort of your landmarks in Uptown. So yeah, you can see our photojournalist is just kind of panning around, showing you everything that is around there, from the officers to the other businesses that are within this crime scene. So again, we are expected to learn more. We're working to learn more. And as soon as we do, we'll update you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, so again, that homicide investigation there in Uptown is ongoing. Again, we just got this news a few minutes ago. We just got the shot, and so we wanted to bring that information to you here on Live Impact News if you're in and around that area. And even if you're not, we wanted to give you that breaking news update. All right, so let's shift gears for a moment. We'll stay here in Charlotte. Let's take a break. I think this is a great time for a break. Let's take a break. We'll be back here in 2 minutes on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene Bragg is here in studio. Also here in studio, she makes a return. Brittany Van Voorhees, meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees, taking a look at the forecast. We talked about how dry it was at the top of the show, or is.
Yes, it is still dry.
It didn't rain between,
It didn't.
now
You know,
until
the
then.
drought did not update in between the last, hour and a half since I've seen it.
And it's getting warmer. Look, Carlene loves the warmer weather.
I do like
I'm
the
kind
warm.
of sick of the warmer
She
weather.
wants more days to go splish splash.
I want to splish splash.
I'm kind of sick of that.
We know.
Me too, but we'll let her have her time. It is warmer today, and you're right, Nick. We did get a drought update this morning, and we are drier than average. So parts of the Charlotte area and mainly toward the beaches are in level 1 or level 2 drought conditions. It's not necessarily abnormal to see drought conditions in the Carolinas. We just normally see them toward the end of the year and beginning of a new year, right? Late fall and into winter. So we would, in a perfect world, like to be out of drought conditions, I would say by the end of October, but it just doesn't look like we're going to see any substantial rain anytime soon. That doesn't mean, though, that can't change. So, of course, we know the weather can change week by week and, hour by hour. Okay, so here's what's going on right now outside. We have the WCNC tower cam. You can see live picture, gorgeous across the area. Temperature is in the mid-80s, dew points in the mid-60s, so it is a little bit more humid out there so far today, but we're not seeing any rain locally, which that's one nice thing about being outside, is that while we do need the rain when we have outdoor plans, such as today, Charlotte 49ers are at home at Jerry Richardson Stadium. So again, you don't want rain on the days where we have stuff going on. Nice and dry there locally and also across the Carolinas. So we will see a small chance of rain over the next 2 days and then again on Saturday, but it's still not going to be substantial. Again, ideally, when you have plans, you don't want it to rain, but it would be nice to have a few little days of consistent rainfall versus storms. But unfortunately, because we're in the 80s and we have a lot of humidity, if we were to see rain, there is a small chance for storms as well. So 20% chance of rain and storms today, 20% tomorrow, and then about 20 to 30 on Saturday, but mostly dry for tonight. As Charlotte 49ers take on Rice. Here's that small chance of rain. Again, it's under 20% really officially, but anytime that we have a chance for rain, we slap that 20% on just in case. Of course, if it's higher, we add in the higher rain chances as well. So there's today, there's tomorrow, a few more storms possible on Saturday. You could kind of see that little blip there of some yellows, some oranges, some reds mixing in. So I will bring in a smaller chance of rain again today and tomorrow, and about a 30% chance on Saturday. Now you can see most of the area still stays dry, but if you're the one person who gets rain and storms on a Saturday, it's something to at least be aware of. Temperatures, though, also much more sticky, much more humid, mid to upper 80s. Some days will be close to 90. In the tropics, we have to give you an update on what's going on there. Gabrielle, of course, forming earlier this week. It is really struggling to look like a tropical storm on satellite, which means the storm is likely weakening here. Still seeing sustained winds around 50 miles an hour now. We know the storm is eventually heading out to sea. It's not going to be any issue for us here in the United States, and that's pretty common with storms that form in the eastern part of the Atlantic Basin. And speaking of, we have a new area of interest to watch, this tropical wave that is still well off the Atlantic coast, well toward the coast of Africa. In fact, you can see that low is just now beginning to emerge. Right now it has a 20% chance of forming over the next week. Again, storms that form very close to the coast of Africa, if not in the central part of the Atlantic Basin, normally head out to sea based on the position of the Bermuda High. This time of year, we oftentimes shift our focus into the Gulf as well as the Caribbean. However, it is still something our team is watching, and we will remind folks that we oftentimes, at least in the Carolinas, have our biggest storms that happen in September and October. So again, it doesn't mean it will become anything, but it's something our team is certainly watching. You can see those low wind rain chances the next 3 days, then really nice weather with a little bit drier conditions heading into Sunday for the Panthers for their first home game there, their home opener against the Falcons. Official autumnal equinox is on Monday, so for those who don't celebrate meteorological fall, it will be fall eventually for everybody then. And then mostly dry again conditions over the next 7 days for Tuesday and Wednesday. So it would be nice to see some more rain pop up here and there, but we don't want a significant amount of rain. So we, of course, just forecast the weather. I don't change it. If I could, I would be a billionaire and probably wouldn't be here. Just kidding. I love you guys. But we are just the messenger, so it's just something to be mindful of as we enter the end again of summer and heading into fall, that at least as of now, we are technically drier than normal. And I do want to rewind back to August for a second because it was a really, really wet start to the month. And I don't want people to say, oh my gosh, what? It was wet in August. That doesn't make any sense. You need a little bit of rain here and there, right, throughout the year. You don't want a ton at one time or a big dry spell. You need a little bit to keep those that consistency going, for lack of a better term. So that, of course, will be something we're watching as well as we get closer to October, November, because that is the time that we normally see a more substantial drought, especially if we didn't see a lot of rain over the summer.
Brittany Van Voorhees there with the forecast. I can't wait for cooler temperatures. I like wearing a sweatshirt.
I don't really think it's going to be that much cooler over the next week, but at least we're not going to see a lot of significant heat.
And let me enjoy it, because when it gets colder and cooler,
You'll be complaining again.
that's what I do. I'm human. I'm sorry, I'm human.
You're not the only one. You're definitely not the only one. I can guarantee you that.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertovic. We want to go back out now to some breaking news that we're following in Uptown, the heart of Uptown. Take a look at this. Look at the scene. We have a photojournalist at the scene there. This is just a few blocks away from Bank of America Stadium, not far from Romare Bearden Park. So here's what we know. This is on our website, WCNC.com, and also in our news app. A person was shot and killed in Uptown, according to CMPD. The shooting was reported near the alley at Latta Arcade on Brevard Court, across the street from Romare Bearden Park. A medic responded to the call and began treatment. The victim was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. CMPD has confirmed to us that a homicide investigation is now underway. You see a large area there taped off. Yellow tape surrounds that area. This is very popular, to put it in context, especially on any given weekend, but especially during like a game night, game day.
Game days, yeah.
It is a very popular area. And again, this is not far from Romare Bearden Park, like right across the street.
the way, yeah.
Yeah, right across the street, a few blocks or a couple of blocks away from Bank of America Stadium, home of Charlotte FC, Carolina Panthers. So you see it there. Again, a person was shot and killed in Uptown. CMPD confirmed that to us. The shooting happened near the alley at Latta Arcade on Brevard Street. across from Romero Bearden Park. Again, medic responding to this call. Victim was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, and the homicide investigation is underway. And as soon as we learn more, we will continue to update you here on WCNC Plus, Live Impact News, and of course on our digital platforms and on WCNC Charlotte. All right, so let's shift now. We want to head to Washington, D.C., where we've kind of been in and out on this, but House Oversight Committee is talking about crime in D.C. It's been a
It's been a loud discussion.
Loud, spirited discussion.
Yes,
there.
that's the way to put it.
On our nation's capital. Let's take a listen into what's being said.
Question for you, Chairman. You just said you said something I want to expound. You've been working with the federal government during this surge
and before
that was brought by President Trump and before.
And before.
So you've been working with him through this entire time.
With the federal, like DEA, FBI,
okay.
MPS Park Police.
Mayor Bowser, you would concur that you guys have been working with the President of the United States throughout this entire period, correct?
Mr. Donalds, you know I work with every president.
I know, but I'm
President
trying to
Trump,
establish a baseline.
in Trump 1 and in Trump 2.
And I thank you for that, Mayor Bowser.
Yes, that is our job. As do all of we all stand ready to work with we're unique. The District of Columbia is unique in
Mayor
that
Bowser,
we're always going to have
Mayor Bowser, I'm out of time, so I got to reclaim. I apologize.
Yep.
I agree, Mayor Bowser.
Yes.
The district is unique. The district is not like any other city in the United States. It is the federal enclave. I commend you and your team for working with the President of the United States to keep the district safe. I really do. I think it's important for a lot of people who are saying that they're upset with the President that your own mayor and your own chairman of the city council has acknowledged that crime has gone down while working with the President. Let's work together. Let's give peace a chance. I yield back.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Donald. Mr. Mann, I'll recognize you now for your...
I ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record an article from the USA Today entitled, D.C. National Guard Deployment to Cost $200 Million, as soldiers pick up trash, blow leaves.
Without objection to ordered.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have a point of personal privilege.
Yes, state your point.
It was raised earlier in an article about me, so let's just get to it.
I thought we did this already.
No, well, we're doing it again because your name was not raised, so now we get to do it twice. Thank you.
No.
He's being recognized for a point of privilege.
It's a point of personal privilege.
We're going to need one,
Thank you very much. I don't think it's really personal for you, madam. Let's be clear about a couple of things. Yes, when I was 18 and 20, I was arrested twice. I was. I made a lot of mistakes when I was young. I've admitted them. I've had to live with them my entire life. Every day since the age of 21, I've had to purpose myself to be a better man than I was the day before. That is something that was afforded to me by the laws of the state of Florida. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And now I'm here in the nation's capital doing my job. In Florida, when I got into my trouble, I was not tried as a juvenile. I was tried as an adult because I was an adult. And since that point in time, I have worked, whether it's at the state level or here at the federal level, to make sure that our criminal justice policies and systems actually make sense, and they are built to secure and protect the citizens that we all serve. That's a mission I've been on ever since.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'm not going to yield because it's a personal point of privilege. It's not for you.
I just wanted to clarify.
So for the record, I wanted to make that point be clear. Yes, I'm the author of the D.C. Crimes Act. Yes, I believe that adults over the age of 18
Mr. Chairman, this is not a campaign ad for the gentleman's governor.
This is not a campaign ad. I'm stating it for the record because it was raised by the gentle lady. I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. I know you're a freshman member of the House, and I have never had a chance to meet you, but it was raised, so I wanted to provide a response because my name was brought up in an article submitted for the record. I think
Point
I'm
of
done
information.
now. I yield.
Point of information.
State your point.
The gentleman from Florida just referenced the bill that he authored, and I just want to clarify, is the chair aware as to whether or not under current D.C. law, it allows the Attorney General...
That's not a point of information.
Okay, well, it's a question.
Well,
Point of inquiry.
I mean,
We're going to do an
we
inquiry.
can talk about it later.
We'll do an inquiry. I am trying to clarify.
It's not a parliamentary inquiry. All right, Chair recognizes Ms. Ansari.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to say, but we all know why you've called this hearing. This is one more attempt to cover for the Trump White House, which is itself engaged in a massive, massive cover-up to shield the president and his allies from accountability. No one is fooled as to why suddenly the President of the United States is declaring emergencies in cities across the country and deploying armed troops against American citizens, despite the fact that crime rates, at least in the District of Columbia, are at a 30-year low. This is very obviously a blatant and egregious attempt to redirect attention from a very...
All right, everyone, we're going to interrupt this House Oversight meeting here on crime in D.C. We'll go back to it. I'm Colin Mayfield here for the next hour on WCNC Plus. We do want to bring in voter protection attorney Kat Lawson. As early voting is kicked off, obviously in North Carolina, we are getting ready for the elections and then midterms, obviously, next year. There's been some discrepancy with registration here, Kat, in North Carolina. Obviously, there's been numerous lawsuits that have played out firsthand that have been elevated to certain courts in the land as well. So let's just start there with voter education. What should folks know? And, you know, I don't necessarily live in North Carolina, but if I did, what should I know about my registration? Should I check it? Where should I start?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So best practice is always to first check your registration just to make sure it's accurate. But really what we're most concerned about this cycle are the 79,000 North Carolina voters who are on what's called a registration repair list. So this is a group of voters who were identified by our State Board of Elections following litigation that started last year and theories by Judge Jefferson Griffin in his fight to overturn his race with Justice Allison Riggs last fall. And so the State Board has now said that these voters will not be able to cast a regular ballot unless they repair or update their registration files.
Obviously, some very important stuff. Heading into midterms, everyone talks about deadlines, and obviously, we've got some municipal elections that are ongoing right now. Let's talk about that and what folks should really know. Is it as simple as just going online and checking your registration, or you need to go through the clerk of courts in your county? What does that look like?
So there are three ways that voters can update their registration file. They can go online to the DMV portal and click through the options there to update their file. They can also go in person to their county boards of election and submit a form and update their information. And then about 2.5 weeks ago, the State Board did send out a letter to everybody on the list with the form with a pre-addressed envelope. So if it did not make its way into the trash folder, into trash at folks' houses, they can always pull it out and mail that on to their county boards. The last option really is to still just show up and vote, right? If one of those three options is not available for voters, that's not a reason for them not to vote. They should just be aware that they'll be required to fill out a provisional ballot that has to go through an administrative review process before it can get counted.
Let's talk about bringing the right identification with you. That has been a discrepancy. Obviously, the president has taken all the way at the Oval Office discussing that and really some of the other opportunities that go along with early voting, sending in ballots, that type of thing. What are you guys educating folks on things to do? Because it seems like these rules are ever changing, and we could have a new set of rules come midterms, potentially. What would you say to that, I guess? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're definitely experiencing a continued campaign to confuse and discourage voters, right? Activities to limit people's opportunities to vote are an ancient practice in our country, especially in our state. And so it's something that we know we've seen before, that prior generations have fought against, and now it's our turn. So these efforts to change the rules just create confusion for voters. They discourage voters from going to the polls and casting their votes. And so what we want voters to know is that, one, the North Carolina Democratic Party is working really hard to make sure that there's transparency and accountability at what happens not only at polling sites, but also during the County Board of Elections review process when they are reviewing these ballots and they're counting which ballots get to be included in the final tally and which ones don't. And so people should know that they do need to show up with a photo ID. We have a photo ID requirement in North Carolina. There are a lot of different options for that. They're all listed on the State Board of Elections website. But voters should also know that there's an ID exception for form. So if they don't have an appropriate ID or they show up to vote and are told their ID is unacceptable, they are entitled to ask for an ID exception form and cast their vote. In the same way, the folks that have this problem with their registration files are entitled to cast a provisional ballot and have that review process happen. Same thing for voters who maybe have other kinds of issues with their registration, or maybe new voters who have never registered before. During early voting, they are allowed to either file voter registration for the first time or update their voter registration if they've moved recently or have change their names, anything like that. So there are options available to voters to make sure that everything is in order before they vote.
Kat, last question here before I ask you, is there anything else that I guess I missed? I do want to ask and obviously promote and be fair in journalistic style here. There are folks that say that, some of these measures, these opportunities that they're looking at could affect elections as in terms of how secure they are. That's been a big discussion on the Republican side of the aisle, that making sure that these elections are secure, whether it's electronically filed, whether it's sending in ballots, absentee ballots, that type of thing. What would you say to that type of question? Because there are a lot of individuals who are worried about the secure voting standards and obviously, as a whole, the democracy of our nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so having public trust in elections and election processes is vital. If we stop believing that our votes matter and that is the appropriate way to resolve differences between us, then everything else about our system ends up breaking down. The problem that I have with Republicans claiming that their interest is solely about election security is that they haven't pointed out where there are examples of the election being insecure. You can't just make up a problem, create a so-called solution that confuses people and discourages them from voting, and then claim that your biggest interest is the system itself. There have not been documented cases of widespread fraudulent voting or insecure voting happening in North Carolina. The only case that we have came back from in 2019, where there were Republican operatives who were running a fake collection ballot scam down in Bladen and Robeson counties. That's the only case that we have so far. And so I'm always open to see if there are documented problems, that figuring out what kind of solutions are going to meet everybody's expectations. But you can't keep going around and telling people there are problems in order to encourage them to be afraid, to be fearful, and to end up passing laws that end up hurting people's fundamental rights.
Appreciate you filling that question. Last question, I lied. I do want to ask this because there have been, in my mind, a number of incidents. One in Statesville recently where there was a black individual who's running for a certain race, and they actually found a doll hanging above her sign, obviously to promote her campaign and the race that she is in. The FBI is investigating this in Statesville, but we have seen these type of fear-mongering tactics, and it seems that these are getting more widespread, might I say, and I guess there's an effort to ongoing to try and potentially suppress, as you said, the vote in this instance. What would you say to individuals who may be worried about this type of action? It seems like I said, this is becoming more widespread and not just hit or miss incidents. What would you say to that in terms of being an attorney? What protections do people have in that right, I guess is the right question.
So my real answer to that isn't based on my kind of position or my training as an attorney. At the end of the day, we all see that, yes, there is a lot of distrust and the threat of violence seems to be increasing as the days go by in our current political environment. But the way that we have to handle that is by understanding that the only way to have a healthy fight in a democracy is at the ballot box, which is why we have to all of us commit to resolving these differences through our voting, through our civic engagement, and understanding that at the end of the day, we share community with each other.
Awesome. Kat Lawson, we certainly appreciate your expertise and your eloquent speech and appreciate you educating folks out there, because it is our civic duty to be out there voting, something that we should not be taking lightly at all, especially with the current climate as it is. Obviously, democracy is something that we take very strongly here in America. So appreciate your time and obviously what you do educating the citizens of North Carolina and beyond, Kat.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much. All right, we do have a quick CMPD update to give to you right now on a possible shooting in Uptown, and we're getting this from Medic. From their on-scene, I guess, response here. They have confirmed for us there was a possible shooting in Uptown that they are on the scene of, and paramedics are currently there. You can see this is the live shot that we have of a crew in Uptown. This is on Brevard Court, a very well-known area, obviously, in Uptown. As you know, they have that alley there with a number of great restaurants and hot spots for individuals, a place that has beignets as well. So we'll continue to update you the situation. It looks like we're going to get an update here in real time. This is great. We appreciate CMPD doing this. We don't often get these type of updates in real time. It takes some time to get these. So we'll listen in here once we have things set. Jeb, if, I know you're listening in. Once they're ready, if you just give me the cue and we'll go, all right, they're ready. We're going to go to this now.
I don't have a lot of room back there.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
And just take one step back. Okay. You want to fix it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to use the receiver again.
Turn around real quick for him, I believe.
Okay, you need the mic pack? Yeah.
Just to add, this is confirmed to be a homicide. That's a huge obviously a huge breaking headline that I wanted to correct just quickly here as we go back to this.
You can look at me the whole time. Everybody good? All right, we already got your name and how to spell it. Can you tell us just what happened here this afternoon behind you?
Yeah, good afternoon, folks. Approximately 1:33 p.m. today, this is our French Quarter entertainment area of Central Division. Central Division officers received an assault with a deadly weapon call for service. Upon arrival, we located a victim with gunshot wounds. Again, there's some businesses back here. We're working through that with our homicide team as to what happened. We are currently not looking for any suspects in this case, but as you can see, this is a very vibrant area. Romare Bearden Park is directly behind you, and you know, we hold events and have gatherings in this park, on sporting events that are nearby. This is a very popular area. We're here Thursday afternoon in broad daylight, and we have a victim that is deceased from gunshot wounds in this area.
Major Lim, with you saying that there's no, shouldn't be a fear in the public, can you say that an arrest has been made or a person of interest that y'all are talking to, anything?
Yeah, we're combing through that right now with our homicide team, and we're not looking for anybody else, if that makes sense. So we're moving on in this investigation and combing through it, so we don't have anybody we're looking for as a suspect goes.
Do you know if the suspect and victim knew each other? Was this targeted, or were bullets spraying here after lunch hour?
Yeah, I don't have any information as to the relations. Again, our Central Division detectives, our homicide team are combing through that information to figure out what happened exactly. But obviously, in this time frame of day and then this activity, very rapidly evolving and kind of just, you know, shocking kind of incident that happened. I will say with regard to Romare Bearden Park, we deal with our community officers out here that are partnering with these businesses. I know in recent weeks even, we've had our community coordinators out here meeting to address concerns with just things like drug activity at night, juvenile activity, and things of just general planning for the events that we know we're going to have an influx of folks here. This is not that, but you know, our community coordinators, our crime reduction unit spends time in this area. All of our officers in Central Division. So this is somewhere that we pay a lot of attention to. So obviously this event is going to escalate that as well.
Major Lim, did this happen in the alleyway or inside an actual business, the shooting?
Yeah, we're working through that right now as far as what exactly happened where, and we're obviously combing through with.
So you still don't know?
Witnesses and businesses and things of that nature that are back here. So we're interviewing people as I speak, but you know, I would say that right back here behind me, this alleyway in the French Quarter was where the activity occurred.
Okay. Can you just speak to the nature of this? I mean, this place is usually packed around the time that this happened.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how many people were out here, but at 1:33 p.m. on Thursday, with the restaurants and the activity, and just looking back behind you at the people that are walking around, there's several people that will have information and been affected by this, and it's very concerning for this to happen. But like I said, our problems and issues that we deal with the businesses back here revolve around nighttime activity, drug activity, and certain juvenile activity at certain times of the year.
And this broad daylight thing is rare then? Is what
Yes,
you're saying.
absolutely.
Okay. Any questions, guys?
One more question?
Other stations? Good? All right, thank you, Major.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Folks.
All right, Major Lynn from CMPD giving us an update from, I do believe, gathering from what I heard him say, a male victim. We don't have any real details on that person, how many times they've been shot. He didn't even know yet, because it was so preliminary in the investigation, whether this person was shot inside or outside of a restaurant. But there is that shot from our crew. We appreciate that. Obviously, we'll have more for you from CMPD, hopefully getting all those details. We'll update you at 4, 5, 6, and 11 tonight. And, of course, don't forget our 6:30 weather impact stream, our 7 to 9 stream as well on WCNC Plus. We are waiting for an update from York County officials in Pennsylvania after 3 officers were shot and killed just yesterday. 2 others gravely wounded. And right now we are hoping to get some updates. Is this the shot we're seeing in the preview? Okay. So we do believe this is going to be live in the coming moments here. And in fact, we will go to this right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tim Barker. I'm the District Attorney for York County. And we're here today to go ahead and speak to you about the horrific events that occurred yesterday. I don't lie to my constituents. I never will. And so I'm going to say up front, this is extremely difficult. One of the most difficult things that any of us have ever had to go ahead and be a part of and to go ahead and do. But we're here today to go ahead and give you an initial finding of fact. And again, it's an initial finding of fact as to what happened yesterday. And we can go ahead and do so because the investigation has been extremely thorough. I had requested that the Pennsylvania State Police take over the lead on this investigation, and they are doing so in conjunction with the county detectives from our office in a full and complete collaborative effort. Based upon the information we gathered that was provided from my review, which included being out at the crime scene itself for hours yesterday, being walked through various aspects at the scene, which included also a review of body-worn camera footage, a review of dash cam footage, personally having a chance to see where there were various items of ballistics, physical evidence, and unfortunately, the location of our fallen officers. Based upon this review of information, I will go ahead and deliver an initial finding of fact. This is an initial one. There are many steps that need to be completed as part of this investigation, and there are many questions that I will not answer for you at this time because the investigation is ongoing. And there will be a second briefing once all of that information comes back and is complete. Those of you who know how we operate know that is what we do. We speak with what we can when we can, but we will not go ahead and state or confirm anything that would be remotely incomplete and not decisive. So what do we have here? Well, first off, Matthew J. Ruth, he is the actor. And this is the only time I will mention his name. After this, he will only be referred to as actor. What occurred begins actually on September 16th at approximately 11:23 p.m., and we must start there, because this began as an incident of domestic violence. There was a call that came in from the mother of his ex-girlfriend that
the actor was spotted on her property with binoculars looking through the residence, looking through a window. The mother of the ex-girlfriend advised that it was a white male wearing camouflage, and she could see him through a trail camera that was standing in her driveway. And while en route to the location, the mother of the ex-girlfriend advised that the male possibly came there in a black truck that was parked on Emig Road around the corner from the residence at 1879 Hare Road. Officers responded, and upon initial arrival to the property, they did not locate the male. They went to Emig Road and did observe the black 2000 Ford Ranger pickup truck parked along the road in the woods line. It was unoccupied, and then officers went back to the residence and spoke with both the ex-girlfriend of the actor and the mother of the actor. And the ex-girlfriend of the actor had advised that on 8/20 of 2025, an unknown person set her pickup truck on fire while it sat in her driveway. She advised that at the time she suspected that it was her ex-boyfriend who was the culprit, but she wasn't sure, so she requested that the matter not be investigated further. The ex-girlfriend then showed a still photo from the trail camera, and what it showed was a white male wearing all camouflage outfit, standing behind the ex-girlfriend's truck in the driveway. And the male is looking through a scope device with it pointed towards the residence. The ex-girlfriend identified the male in the photo as the actor, and she advised that they put the trail camera up after the incident on August 20th of 2025. The ex-girlfriend confirmed that the actor was, in fact, her ex-boyfriend, and she suspected again that he was involved in the incident of setting her vehicle on fire. She stated that they had dated for only a short period of time and that the actor had never been to her house nor had ever been invited there. The ex-girlfriend also advised that the actor owned and often drove a 2000 black Ford Ranger pickup truck. And when they were reviewing the photo, the officers noticed that the actor had an AR-15 style rifle slung across his chest while looking into the residence. The officers then proceeded over the next several hours, which included assistance as well from the York County Sheriff's Department through the use of their drone, to attempt to locate the actor. They could not find him, despite searching over the next several hours. A warrant was sworn out for the actor's arrest, and the charges in that matter included stalking and loitering and prowling at night. The next morning, detectives from the Northern York County Regional Police Department attempted to go ahead and locate and execute a search warrant on the known residence of the actor. Included in executing that search were 3 detectives: Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emenheiser. 2 other detectives also participated in this search. They arrived at the actor's residence and communicated with his family at 12:11 p.m. They left the residence, having interviewed family and having conducted search at 1:23 p.m. At 2:02 p.m., Detective Sergeant Becker, Detective Baker, Detective Emenheiser, and 2 other Northern Regional detectives arrived on scene at 1879 Hare Road. the location of the incident the previous evening. They arrived and they were searching for the actor. Also accompanying them to assist was a deputy sheriff from the York County Sheriff's Department to again assist with drone action and finding individuals through the usage of a drone. The search went on for the actor, which included various outbuildings, and the drone was being employed to also check neighboring fields. During the course of this search, detectives went to the front door of the residence. They arrived at the door at 2:08 p.m. The initial officer who went to the door was Detective Emenheiser. Right behind him was Detective Baker. Following as well was Detective Sergeant Becker and another Northern York County Regional detective. Final detective remained behind as more of a perimeter view in looking out for the actor and securing the perimeter. Detective Emenheiser discovered that the door was unlocked. Having remembered that the door was left locked by the ex-girlfriend and mother who were not at the residence because they went somewhere else for their safety, they decided that they were going to go in. The door was open, and upon immediately opening the door, the actor repeatedly fired at the officers with multiple rounds from an AR-15 styled rifle with a suppressor, immediately striking Detective Baker, striking Detective Sergeant Becker, striking at Detective Emenheiser, who he and the other Northern York County Regional Detective who were there closest to the house, as they tried to go back for cover position. He repeatedly fired upon them. All four detectives went down. The actor then proceeded to turn his attention to the deputy sheriff. The deputy sheriff and the other Northern York County Regional Detective began to position themselves to return fire. The Northern York County Regional Detective repeatedly fired at the actor. The actor did strike the deputy sheriff who was by his vehicle and also struck the vehicle. The deputy sheriff did himself remove his 9mm. The Northern York County Regional Detective was firing at the actor with his AR-15 style rifle. The actor repeatedly was firing his rifle at the deputy sheriff, striking him. The deputy sheriff went down and went to try to retrieve his rifle and go for safety as well to take cover to return fire. The actor went up towards the roadway where the vehicles were to engage in fire with the deputy sheriff, continuing to fire at him. The deputy sheriff returned fire with his 9mm handgun. The Northern York County Regional Detective also was returning fire with his rifle. While up at the roadway when the actor was there was a final exchange of gunfire. After that exchange, the actor went down. The actor became deceased. Following this, the Northern York County Regional Detective immediately went to see about rendering aid. He immediately went down first to his fallen officers from Northern York County Regional Police Department by the house and discovered detectives that were non-responsive. Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emenheiser were all killed following the brutal ambush that was committed upon them by the actor. The final Northern York County Regional Detective was critically wounded. The other Northern York County Regional Detective immediately began to render aid, as he also called out to have responses from other law enforcement and other emergency responders. After rendering aid there, he realized that the deputy sheriff was also critically injured. The detective for the Northern York County Regional Police Department responded to the deputy sheriff and immediately began rendering aid to him as well. From the time period when the detectives arrived at the front door preparing to enter to when the shooting stopped, they arrived at the front door at 2:08 p.m. All shooting had stopped by 2:10 p.m. and 16 seconds. At 2:14 p.m., the first additional officer arrives, another member of the Northern York County Regional Police Department. The detective rendering aid to the deputy sheriff requests that the other Northern York County Regional officer go over and place handcuffs upon the actor, not knowing his full status at that point. That was done so. And then numerous other law enforcement agencies and emergency personnel came to the scene to assist and render aid. The Pennsylvania State Police, as mentioned previously, took over lead in the investigation assisted by our county detectives. Numerous law enforcement agencies came to help to secure the scene, help with any rescue efforts. And when I say numerous, I can't tell you how proud I am of every single law enforcement officer in this whole county. They all came from everywhere to be there to help in any way they could. A search of the scene revealed numerous locations of various ballistics evidence that in a future briefing we will be able to catalog to go ahead and explain what it is following ballistics testing and following other information. Needless to say, at this point in time, from what I was able to observe on scene as shown and explained to me by the investigators, it corroborates fully what we have just stated and also shown through visual and also through other interviews. Inside the house, besides discovering the initial casings from where the actor began his barrage of murderous activity, they also discovered in the basement that he had killed the black Labrador that was owned by his ex-girlfriend's mother, shot one time. We are currently investigating further aspects of motive. So we will not speculate on the full profile of the actor. Numerous other search warrants have been executed. Other things are being analyzed. There is one motive, though, that is clear for everything, and that is the hateful scourge of domestic violence. That is what brought us here. That is what brought law enforcement here. That is what started all the activity. The whole sequelae is there. And yes, thanks to the actions of the Northern York County Regional Police Department, supported by the York County Sheriff's Department, we have 2 lives of the residents there that are saved today. Because make no mistake about it, and this I can conclude by all reasonable inferences from all information without speculation, had they arrived home and not Northern Regional Police Department officers arrived, they would have been killed immediately by the actor. Again, that is not speculation. That is the absolute only reasonable inference from all actions. The detective from Northern Regional who was injured was, of course, rushed to York Hospital, as you all know, taken into surgeries, was critical but stable. The same is for the deputy sheriff from the York County Sheriff's Department. We are very blessed and thankful that they are stable. In terms of some legal aspects, one of the things that I wanted to make clear of right now, although it be crystal clear and obvious to any human being on the planet, but just to make sure that this is articulated legally, all actions by law enforcement were justified. They weren't only justified, they were necessary. And we are so thankful and appreciative to them, and especially our Northern York County Regional Detective who fired the last shot and who rendered the aid. I can't imagine the strength and the fortitude that it takes to immediately, after having seen and been engaged in that, and going down to see what you observe, to be immediately thinking of rendering critical aid and engaging in life-saving action. He saved many lives that day. If the actor was not eliminated and his threat and murderous rampage eliminated, who knows where this would have stopped. Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emenheiser were all credits to law enforcement. I personally knew them very, very well. They were wonderful. They were mission-driven, and that day they continued their mission. Well, their mission is now complete. You kept the faith. You ran the race. You fought more than a good fight. You fought the critical fight for us. Job well done. Mission well served. And we will love you forever and all eternity. Final comment I want to make is about York County. This is my home. This is our home. We've gone through a lot this year. We've been at podiums like this too many times. And when you go through that, when you go through these sorts of things, it can seem very, very dark and dire. And you can begin to lose faith and hope. And I'm going to tell you, last night, there were a lot of us feeling that way, and I personally was too. And then when I left the scene and went over to the coroner's office when I was in the procession, and we're going down the roadways, and all you saw all along those roadways were members of our community And they were standing there in the rain for hours to watch our law enforcement standing there, the old, the young, families, children, waving American flags, waving flags and holding signs saying "Back the Blue," showing their love and appreciation for law enforcement. And all I could think is, there's the light. There's Christ's light that drives out Satan's darkness. We are a great community. We are a safe community. We are a loving community. We are there for each other, and we need to be together to be love and light, and we will demolish hate and darkness by doing so. And by God, with every fiber of our beings, we will do that. This county will always be there for our law enforcement, and our law enforcement will always be there to protect and serve you. God bless you, York County, all that you are, all that you stand for, and we are so proud to serve you every moment of every day. With that, I'm going to ask my dear friend Dave Sunday to speak. And before I do, I want to mention something special about him. Yes, he's our Attorney General, and yes, he was the former DA. But he plays a more critical role in our lives, and in my life in particular. He's one of the best friends I have. And he came to the scene last night, not to be Attorney General, not to be a politician, not to even go ahead and be extra law enforcement. He came there at my request because we needed his friendship and love. And you know what in life? That's more important than anything else. And more important than calling him my former colleague, my former boss, and our Attorney General. I call him my friend. So my friend, if you'd like to say a couple words.
One moment. Good afternoon. After tragedies like this, we often look for reasons to explain unreasonable and unexplainable events, but oftentimes none come. Yesterday, 3 families received the call that law enforcement families fear each and every single day. They may not always talk about it or acknowledge it, but that fear is always there and very, very real. The fear that their father or their mother, husband or wife, beloved partner will not be returning home. I pray for the families who are dealing with unfathomable loss, and our hearts remain with the 2 families who received a call about their loved ones being seriously injured, and we pray for their recovery. This law enforcement community needs us right now. These families need us. The police departments, York County and the Commonwealth needs everyone to respond with grace, with love, with support, and yes, prayer. Police officers do not ask for awards, accolades, or attention. But the truth is, every single day, they're standing up for their communities, for many people who they have never met before, and putting their lives on the line. Many of us have been in a position where there's been an emergency in our lives, and we've needed help. And we've had to call 911, and the police come. And they oftentimes can fix a situation. They can make you feel better. They can take care of you. And after that's over, they leave. And as a family, you may come together and say, thank God we got through that. We're okay. But those police officers move on to the very next call. And then they move on to the very next call. Every day, every week, every month, for years, decades sometimes. And they don't have the luxury of taking a break and saying, you know, we took care of that one, we took care of that family, we're fine. And this kind of detail in particular, when you're talking about a warrant, is some of the most absolute dangerous work our police officers do, because they never know exactly what they'll encounter. The officers involved with this incident went to a home to protect a woman and her children. They encountered a force of evil, hell-bent on taking lives. Think about that. Think about what these officers went through. And I ask, do police officers not deserve the full embrace and support of society? Being a police officer means kissing your spouse or partner and children goodbye every single morning or afternoon, depending on your shift, and heading off to a job where you have no idea what you're going to run into that day and what will be required of you. Our police officers today are so much more than law enforcement officials. They're social workers, mental health professionals, counselors, crisis interventionists, child care workers. And they have the bright light of public opinion and judgment shining on them every single day. But yet they perform their duties without hesitation, true to their oath to protect and serve. Yesterday, 3 brave officers gave their lives to fulfill their duties. In the midst of that gunfire, their mission expanded from protecting a family to saving one another, and those actions saved lives. Without committed, qualified police officers, any and every community in our nation is susceptible to lawlessness and disorder. Families and children are vulnerable. Our older residents are vulnerable. Who's going to hold the line between a free society and lawlessness? Well, we all can play a role. I've heard it said before that more and more we have come to expect less and less from each other. Looking around our world, it's hard to argue with that. Society has become programmed to devalue human life. Perhaps it's social media or the news environment that thrives on outrage, or the loss of in-person connections and relationships. But that doesn't mean that we have to accept it. We have to get past the attitude that we are not each other's keeper. Step away from the keyboard and talk to a stranger, talk to a neighbor, find a place to lend a hand. If we can't get beyond that attitude of selfishness for the sake of our society, then do it for the sake of these men, these heroes and their families. As one of Pennsylvania's most famous and favorite sons, Fred Rogers once said, "Look for the helpers." I implore us all to not only seek out the helpers, but support and empower them, emulate them. Again, the answers we seek, the logic or reasoning to explain how such a horrible, unimaginable tragedy can happen, they are hard to come by. So let's not rely on answers and instead take action. Not all of us swear the oath to protect and serve. Not all of us put on a uniform, but we are all capable of being the unrelenting force that overcomes evil. And I think we are. Late last night, after spending the evening at the scene of this horrific crime with our fallen heroes, my friends that were partners when I served as a district attorney, we made a very sad journey with their bodies to York. The rain was falling as if God himself was mourning with us. As I looked outside my vehicle window, lining each rural road, outside each home, standing in the rain were our fellow York Countyans, with American flags, holding a vigil for these men and honoring their sacrifices. I want everyone to know how important that was to the police officers and the law enforcement community of York County. It was so important to each of us who knew these men and considered them friends. That is the humanity that we need in this moment and in our world. Thank you. May God bless and keep these men and their families, and may He protect the men and women in law enforcement every single day. Thank you. Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner Chris Parris.
I would just simply like to say, again, on behalf of the Pennsylvania State Police, we stand with law enforcement in York County and all across the Commonwealth. We will continue to provide any and all resources at our disposal to ensure that the investigation is completed. The district attorney here in York County, our Attorney General, as well as the Northern York County Regional Police Department and the York County Sheriff's Department, I will say from a perspective of a police executive, they are a credit to law enforcement, the diligence with which they carried out this investigation from its onset, and the way that they doggedly and methodically did what they had to do in order to preserve life and seek justice is something that I know all people in York County and all people across the Commonwealth should be very proud. So we continue to support law enforcement services here. We will continue to do so. Our members' assistance people will be here with the Sheriff's Office as well as the Northern York County Regional Police. There are recovery support services that will have to be dealt with for the injured. There are line of duty funerals that have to be planned, and we stand with them and will support them today and every day forward. Thank you very much.
I stand here today to tell you the obvious. Our office is grieving. Our community is grieving. Our fellow men and brothers and sisters in blue are grieving. But what I can tell you, the only way we're going to get through this is prayer. And the support and the overwhelming support from our community, our law enforcement brothers and sisters, helps us to get through this. What I'd ask you to do is pray for my fellow colleague, Dave Lash. 3 of his men paid the ultimate sacrifice. And our condolences go out to you and your family members and to your support staff, because truly without them, we are nothing. They support us every day. I see them over there grieving. I would ask you to go home and pray. And with God's grace, we'll get through this. And pray for one of my officers that are now in surgery comes through. Appreciate the public support. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Lash. I'm the Chief of Police of the Northern York County Regional Police Department. Yesterday was a dark day for the Northern York County Regional Police Department and for all of York County and our communities. We are mourning the loss of 3 of our officers, and we continue to pray for the recovery of our 4th and also for the recovery of the York County Sheriff's Deputy. I want to take a moment to recognize the 3 officers we lost: Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser. Each of these men represented the very best of policing. They served with professionalism, dedication, and courage. They were leaders within our agency, committed to protecting this community and standing beside their fellow officers. Unfortunately, their deaths are the stark reminder of the risks law enforcement officers accept every day. They knowingly place themselves in harm's way to keep others safe. For that, we are forever indebted to them and their families. Currently, our administrative offices are closed, and police coverage in our municipalities is being provided by neighboring departments and the Pennsylvania State Police. We are grateful for their immediate support in helping us maintain public safety while our department works through this tragedy. The Northern York County Regional Police Department will return to patrol operations tomorrow on Friday, September 19th at 1900 hours. Until then, our partners will continue to ensure uninterrupted police service in our communities. We know the community wants to help, and an official endorsed donation portal will be announced shortly. This will ensure that all contributions go directly to the families of our fallen and injured officers. On behalf of the Northern York County Regional Police Department, I want to thank the community, our law enforcement partners, our elected officials, for their overwhelming outpouring of support. While nothing can erase the pain of this loss, your strength and compassion will help us and the families of Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser as we move forward through the difficult days ahead. Thank you.
That concludes the comments that we came here today to make to everyone. I will be willing to take just a couple of questions, and the reason why I say that, those of you who are familiar with what we do in these circumstances, there will be a complete and full briefing in the future when the investigation is complete. There are many questions that we will not answer today because there is testing that is occurring. There is still information being reviewed and gathered, and we will not make speculative comments in that way. But we will answer a couple, but only a couple.
All right, folks, we did not want to cut this too early, but I think we got the entire press conference. So many things said, very emotional words from many of those men standing before